October has rolled around in 2020, and although it's not yet time for treats, Pocono Raceway has something a little tricky for drivers in the 3-wide Cold Hard Cup Series in the form of a triangle. 3 corners is most definitely not easier than 4, especially when each one has its own traits and challenges. Based off of Indianapolis and Milwaukee, and I think Trenton, each of Pocono's 3 turns require something a little bit different. And it's that something different we take on tonight on SimTV. It's time for round number 7 of the 3-wide Cold Hard Cup Series from Pocono, a doubleheader event for the 3-wide Racing League. Rounds 7 and 8 coming to you tonight live. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Connor Horn. Connor, welcome back to 3-wide. It's been a couple weeks since we've had you on here. A doubleheader event tonight, a 30-lap race and then a 40 according to the schedule. Cloudy conditions out here. This is going to be something a little bit unique.
It's definitely going to be unique. I'm kind of surprised that the weather's very cool. Clouds all over. I don't think the sun's in view at all. Track temps around 75. It's going to be a cool overcast race for the first race at least. So we're not going to see, we might not see that much slipping inside, but these drivers are still going to be on edge in all 3 corners. Pocono
Raceway constructed in 1971. Long Pond, Pennsylvania, population of 5,200 people. This racetrack was widely regarded for a long time to be sort of boring, but Connor, that's sort of come about more lately. It used to be regarded for its high speeds back in the 80s, and that's real convenient because we got 1987 stock cars tonight, which means that we're going to see speeds well above 180, 190 miles an hour off into turn number 1. So this is going to be a fun event tonight. 2 races in one. We saw this not too long ago, but that time it was at the road course at Tsukuba. So with our event about to get rolling here, how does this doubleheader change your mindset, knowing that you've got sort of a second race to overcome any issues if you make a mistake in the first one?
Well, you just got to be able to, really the first race in this doubleheader, it's going to be about learning more than it is racing. You're going to learn how the car feels into these corners, how you make passes and all that, how you get runs and all sorts of that. You're really going to be learning for most of this first race. And then for that second race, well, hopefully you do manage a decent finish learning in that first race. The second race is going to be all about getting what you learned, thinking about what you learned, remembering everything that you have been taught by yourself, and hopefully just going all forward in the second race so you know what to do when you have another shot at another race.
You can follow live timing and scoring at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. We'll get right into qualifying right now because that's what's going on the racetrack. And Michael Goodman is one of the drivers that's on and coming on through. Across the line, we first lap time on the board of 58.934. Going to be third quick because at the top of the board, it's Race Clark that is put down at 57.9. Other drivers on the racetrack, Donovan Smith in the number 1. We'll ride on board here, and we'll get a pretty good sense of how fast these cars can get here on the straightaways, Connor. I might bet it's pretty quick.
Oh, I think it's going to be pretty fast. That would be right, especially with the low speeds. And also, this isn't the worn-out surface of Pocono. This is newly paved Pocono, the updated version. So even faster speeds. It would have been interesting to see how much these cars would have slipped and slide on a hot track with the 2011 version of Pocono. But this is going to be high speeds, high action all the time tonight.
Through turn number 1 for Donovan Smith. Jordan McEvoy goes quickest across the start-finish line now with a 57.458 by 84 thousandths over Drew Eisenman's number 77. Justin Kolb on the racetrack now. Looks like he's rolling on the backstretch about 168 miles an hour into what they call the tunnel turn here. Connor, this is a very fast middle corner, and it's very unforgiving on corner exit. You see Kolb slip up the racetrack. If there's any place to crash here, I would choose not to crash, probably either into turn 1 or into the tunnel turn.
Oh, I think it's definitely the tunnel turn where you're going to be really scared of crashing in there. Turn 1, maybe in real life, you're scared of losing the brakes, but in the virtual sense, it's really not that difficult of a corner. But that tunnel turn will catch people out. And maybe turn 3 a little bit, Kolb's into a wall at a 3, but that tunnel turn is very sketchy. It's really hard to go through there too wide, let alone on your own, as Kolb's going to slide around there. We got another driver coming out. I think that's Jonathan Cogswell coming to start and end his lap.
Yeah, it's a 58.695 that will put him 13th best. Nick Boyd also out on the racetrack right now in the number 74, rolling through turn number 3 and comes on out, drifting all the way to the outside wall. I think what we're going to be fighting here today, Connor, is the tire construction. These tires, the bias plies, they're going to slide all over the racetrack, and getting side grip, side bite as they call it, is going to be an extreme challenge this evening.
Yeah, these drivers are going to be on edge. Even with the cool conditions, these cars still do not want a grip of a track. You have to manhandle these cars best you can. So these drivers are just going to be looking for any sort of grip they can. Just like at Indy a week or 2 ago, it's going to be on edge when you're trying to pass someone into a corner. You're going to have to be on your toes to get a pass completed here.
Cogswell going again for a second lap. You see the brake rotor is also glowing on that car, so brakes are going to be a discussion, as they always are with this 1987 stock car. Pretty small field tonight. 18, 19, 20 drivers have joined us this evening for this doubleheader event. Across the line for Cogswell. Will he improve? He will not. That's a 59.166. He will stay 15th place. Qualifying complete, and no one else other than James Miller atop the board. He will jump to the top. He's also a No Bull 4 driver, and an extra cash bonus available for one of 4 drivers with the red numbers on the sides of the cars tonight. We'll bring you through the field here in just a moment, show you who those drivers are, and have a look at our weather conditions for the race. Temperatures relatively cool, high humidity, and cloudy, which means we're going to see grip levels be pretty high here, Connor.
Yeah, they're lucky lucky rain isn't in the forecast anymore, because if it's Pocono, you really never know, but it's just going to be a really cool day. So I think we're going to see these drivers be potentially packed up for the most part in an early run, but it might spread out later. But these guys are going to be all over each other to start a run here.
And lining up on the pit lane here, you see a couple of the No Bull 4 drivers. There's the 09 is one of them. We'll step deeper in the field. See the, I think, is that the 63 that might have one of those numbers? The 10 car might have one of those numbers. And as we step through the field, the 87, Richard Hines. So we'll wait for the field to roll off here, and let's roll through the starting lineup here. Connor, on the front row tonight, it's going to be the number 09 of James Miller and the 21 of Jordan McEvoy sharing that front row.
James Miller's 4th pole of a season, I believe. If we go into the second row, Drew Eisenman, Justin Kolb. Eisenman had a really good shot at winning at Indy, but couldn't get the job done. Jeffrey Fisher and Nick Boyd on that 3rd row, 5th and 6th.
Starting in row number 4 in the inside, in 7th position will be Race Clark's number 22. Mike Stevens in the number 63 will start in 8th. Behind them in row number 5, it's going to be 9th place Tanner Sharp and Richard Hines in the number 87, looking on continuing a good season that he's had so far in that 87 car.
Yeah, and Tanner Sharp's kind of just looking for luck, any sort of luck at this point. Dustin Durr and Donovan Smith on that 6th row, 11th and 12th. Brett Miller, Michael Goodman, 13th and 14th. And Jonathan Cogswell, who had a decent run going last week at Indy alongside Alex Boyd, 15th and 16th. And
the last couple rows here, starting in 17th and 18th tonight, all the way back in row number 9, it'll be Skylar Nissel in the number 11 and Matt Grunberg in the number 54. And rounding out the field here tonight, it's going to be Chuck Sweeting in the number 26 and Corey Lindsay in the 00. Field rolling off and preparing for their 1 pace lap here, doubleheader event, which means that you get a chance to redeem yourself a little bit, but again, both count for points. So this is just, if you crash out of this one, it's not like you get your record of race. It still counts as a DNF. So my suggestion, Connor, is that these guys take it a little bit easy and don't do anything silly here.
Yeah, you got to make sure you're finished. If you don't finish in 2 races back-to-back, that's going to be really costly, especially if you're the points leader like James Miller or in the contention for those points like Gruenberg and Eisenman and Jeffrey Fisher. You have to make sure you just finish these races. If you're on edge, back it down. Just make sure you get the checkered flag both times.
Into the tunnel turn here for the last time at pace speed for hopefully a little while. Again, this will be about a 28-minute race. Lap times just under a minute long around here, so this will be just about a half an hour if everything goes green from start to finish. I think the chances of going green from start to finish are actually pretty high, considering that once you get spread out here on the racetrack, it's actually sort of difficult to find yourself in a collision situation with another driver. So I think we'll see relatively clean green racing this evening, provided we get through the restarts pretty clean as well, because the run down to the first corner, you can see it's about as wide as an airplane runway, and I'm sure that drivers will use every single bit of that here as they come out of turn number 3 here in just a moment.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to really watch. Like you said, the restart's going to be very hectic. If they're side by side, 2-3 wide in the tunnel turn, who knows what's going to happen, but we're coming to the green here.
Round number 7 and 8 at Pocono, Pennsylvania for the 3-Wide Racing League Cold Hard Art Cup Series. Green flag flies, and we're racing for Pocono, Pennsylvania. The run down to turn 1. Oh, engine's blowing, and cars slowing. It's the one car. Donovan Smith slowing drastically on the front straightaway with an engine exploded, missed a gear. Down into turn number 1, James Miller in the 09 leads the field. McEvoy second, gonna make the hard left to turn way down the racetrack. The 77 of Eisenman gets the door slammed on him, and he wants back to the inside.
That was unfortunate. Pretty much everyone at the back behind that one machine got damaged. I know Gruenberg has the front end damage. Alex Boyd, Michael Goodman got the worst end of that deal, other than Donovan Smith, as all of the drivers at the front still jockeying for position as the 21's going to look low into the tunnel turn. 2x2 in the tunnel turn. That's going to be tough to work the 74 way up the track.
Oh, big sliding moments through the tunnel turn for the majority of the field. They get through there cleanly, though. 09 Miller pulls ahead now by 5 car lengths. Then it's Jordan McEvoy, Drew Eisenman, Kolb, Race Clark, Nick Boyd. And look at the scatter that they have through turn number 3.
You got drivers all the way trying the wall. That's Cogswell trying the wall up there in turn 3. I don't think it worked out too well. You're going to see drivers sliding all over the place, drivers getting runs out of those corners. Going to be really important. Richard Hines getting a run on Tanner Sharp as they battle. Nick Boyd under attack from Jeffrey Fisher here as the leader starts to try to pull away.
Oh, big dive up the inside for one of those cars. Off into turn number 1. Was that Jeffrey Fisher? Yes, it was. Spin for the 52 of Cole.
He saved it. Wow. Oh, McEvoy's really checking up that top lane. Eisman's going to dart down. Look at the 21 just getting swarmed. They were 4 wide for a second there.
And a big scatter on the back straightaway as they head to the tunnel turn. Still not done yet. The 52 managed to hang on. He'll drop down to 8th as Fisher goes to 2nd. Drew Eisman on the bottom with the 74. Hanging on that quarter panel as they head to the tunnel turn, sliding all the way up to the outside wall.
It is exactly what James Miller wants to see. The only thing he doesn't want to see is a yellow because he's got about a 2.5 second lead over Jeffrey Fisher here.
Through turn number 3, the 22 of Clark way out of the rubbered-in groove. He's going to drop back just a little bit. The 77 of Eisenman clears him off of turn number 3. Now look at this run down the straightaway. The 09 is gone. Everyone's still scattering about behind him.
But what's important about that, he's out of the draft. The 98 nowhere close to getting any sort of sniff of a slipstream there, so the 09 is not going to get chased down unless something drastic happens. While the 98, while he's in 2nd, Eisenman's still in his grasp. Everyone can still get the slipstream off of that 98. Oh, Tanner Sharp's going around.
Oh, that's going to be a big hit in turn number 1, and he gets the fence. Caution is out. The 63 of Stevens also turned around. And our first caution at lap number 3.
I'm sure Miller thought that would go green, but it just wasn't meant to be. These drivers, they couldn't get spread out at all. They were swarming each other for 3 laps there, and they finally got finished off there. I think Tanner Sharp just got loose in turn 1, just like the 52 did, but he didn't have room to save it.
Here is a look here at the run down into turn number 1 from high above. On the outside of the 63, Stevens dives low. 3 car in a little bit hot. You already see the car already sideways. He just comes down the racetrack, tags the 63, and goes up. He actually does a good job getting stopped, just catches the wall, but Stevens unfortunately gets collected in that.
I think there was a bit of a stack up. McEvoy might have gotten the rear end full of someone there. I think it was Justin Colboom's got to the back of him. Brent Miller did a really good job of just barely squeezing through that there.
Yep. Little touch there. The 32 of Dustin Dewar also got a piece of it. And you mentioned Brent Miller, so let's go on right on board with him in this 89 car.
He sees it happening. He's not really going to have anywhere to go. He's just got to get on the binders and hope they spread out of the way, and the Red Sea just parted for him.
So Brent Miller, who has been very fortunate the last couple weeks in a couple different series to make it through some of the big wrecks. So we're under caution for the first time today. James Miller, the race leader. So what we learned there, Connor, very quickly was that James Miller's really good, and it seems like these cars are very tough to handle right now. What do drivers have to do to make them handle a little bit better? Is it how you drive it, or is there something else that you have to take into account? Is it more of a respect thing, or is it a driving style thing?
I think it's a driving style thing because I think we saw most of the same drivers get loose to 52 and to 3, very aggressive drivers, especially the 3. They kind of went sideways there, and it's really hard to tell because it's a very cool day, but these drivers are still sliding all over the place. I guess it's a good idea that this wasn't a completely sunny day because these drivers would have been absolutely, the tires would have been dying as well as the drivers, because I think they got to back it down into the corners. Another thing there, they're really sending it hard into the center. They might have to back it down a little bit. So the drivers I know it's only a 30-lap race, but these drivers kind of just got to cool it a little bit here, as we're going to see a lot of drivers come on the pit road. And James Miller, who got almost screwed, he got screwed last week at Indy because he pit with a green-white checkered situation. This time he has friends who stay out with him.
And it looks like everybody from, I think it's that Chuck Sweeting on back, are going to hit pit lane. And I don't know, what do we think about tire situation? Do you think they're going to be worth taking this early in the race?
With everyone pitting, Sweeting on back, it's not a bad idea for them, obviously, but I really don't think we thought, at least I thought at Indy, the tires would make a big difference, but we just didn't see the fall off that I thought we'd see at Indy, so I expect more of the same here at Pocono. I don't think the fall off's going to be big enough for it to warrant a trip down to pit road.
So drivers heading down there right now. We'll check back in with James Miller as he leads this race. Started up front. He has been one of the dominant forces this season, especially on the road course at Tsukuba. And looking ahead, I think we have the Charlotte Roval, and that's the only other road course left on this schedule, and that's a little ways away. So that would be on November 9th. So still plenty of time left in this season for anyone else. Checking in on the season standings. Right now, James Miller is leading by 8 points over Matt Gruenberg in that number 54 car. Then it's three further back to find Drew Eisenman. You see him riding in third place right now. So if Eisenman wants to start eating into that points lead, he better start finishing in front of Miller in that 09, and we're getting about to the halfway point of this season. Iowa next week will mark that point, so I would say for Eisenman, I would have to start having him outrun the 09 to consider him a real championship contender.
Yeah, and there's at least 2 races I could think of where Eisenman could have gained more points on the 09. Indy for one, obviously a week or 2 ago, but it's just everyone outside that top 3 have had just too many incidents, too many bad races that have set him back points-wise. Jeffrey Fisher had an abysmal Michigan race, so that's just an example. I'm trying to think back, the 09, he's obviously good at the road courses, but maybe he's just a double-header king here. He obviously won both those races at Tsukuba. We got another double-header here. It looked like he was going to pull away for an easy win. He was dominating those first 3 laps, so he might just know how to get around these 2 races, these 2 double-headers.
Well, I do think that there is something to the sprint format. I think when you shorten up the races, it's going to prefer one driver versus the other, and I think James Miller is that guy. I think you look at the longer races, I think you have to look at guys like the 54 of Gruenberg that will excel at those. Tanner Sharp also seems to do better in those longer races without quite so much rush to the front. So lots of considerations here as we get the 1 to green. And for the restarts here, we talked about last week in Indianapolis, the stack-ups that we saw. How did drivers avoid that this week, and do you think they learned their lesson last time?
Well, I think they're actually, the lights are off on the pace car, so they are double file. So that's probably a product of all the stacking up. It seemed like every race, there was at least one of those incidents. The biggest of all last week, a bunch of drivers got caught up in a few incidents stacking up. So I think the admins decided we're just going to do away with that. So much for the throwback. We're going to double file it up. If you stack up now with double file restarts, it's just on you. As we saw that, even though it was obviously a double file initial start, Donovan Smith, he blew up. A lot of drivers got damage, including Gruenberg. So Donovan Smith's the only one out of this race. But even with the double file restarts, it's definitely still a danger, but it's much easier than just having the whole field in one line.
While the field works the way through the tunnel turn, if you're interested where I've been the past couple months, well, I've been out working with Grid Life and GT World Challenge America on some real-world broadcasting. Got the opportunity to kind of simulcast the Indianapolis 8-hour for GT World Challenge America. Got to interview a bunch of interesting people, including GT3 Mercedes driver Ben Keating, as well as the program manager for the Mercedes AMG program, as well as the program manager for the Acura NSX GT3. So you can find all that on the CrowdStrike Racing YouTube channel. It's an 8-hour broadcast, but you go back and scroll on through and find some pretty interesting interviews throughout there. All right, coming out of turn number 3, I almost said 4. Turn number 3, pace car is going to peel off. James Miller in command. He's on driver's right here as we get the green flag back in the air from Pocono.
I was about to tell you what turn 4. If you're Carl Edwards, you think there's 6 corners, but there's definitely 3 in my opinion. So 09 gets a really good jump there. He's going to, not the best of jumps because the 98 is still going to be on that bottom lane, but I think Jeffrey Fisher's probably going to let him in as they go 3 and 4 wide in the back.
Miller through to the top spot again, a teammate on the inside, certainly going to help him. They're looking still 3 wide with the 89 to Brent Miller. In the middle of that as they come out of turn number 1, real tight, 4 wide down the backstretch here.
Oh, the 54 bouncing hard. The apron really getting to that car. Lost a lot of momentum. I don't think 4 wide's what you want to do, but he had no choice. His car was going to force up the middle.
Really got tight there with Jonathan Cogswell. I think Cogswell cut him a break as they head through the tunnel turn here.
And Cogswell got really loose. He's up the track. He's going to lose a position of speeding. As someone spinning in the very back, I think it's Mike Stevens. No, Dustin Durr spun out of the tunnel turn. He's off the track. He's going to reset. We're going to stay green.
James Miller in command right now. Jeffrey Fisher not too far behind. See them sliding out of turn number 3. And everyone line is starting now except for the 54 Gruenberg to the inside of Brent Miller. Miller's going to come down and protect that line if he can across the line.
He's really trying to protect it. It's going to be different for him now because he's not going to have that advantage of being out of the draft here. So he's going to have to deal with that 98 getting runs on him down Long Pond straightaway and also the front straightaway as well. As the 98 looks high, trying to get an over-under move onto the Long Pond straightaway.
Looks like Gruenberg is through. Move him up into 7th place as we head down the back straightaway. And looks like Fisher all over the back of the race leader. Going to have a look to the inside into the tunnel turn side by side at Pocono turn number 2.
giving each other a lot of room there. James Miller does not want to pinch this early for good reason, but Fisher could not get the run off of the corners. Eisman's going to go 3. Fisher, a huge block on him into turn 3.
That didn't work. The 77 still got down there, but he got pinched, and that's going to make that corner be real tough for him as he scrapes those Goodyear tires across the pavement. Can't complete the pass and leave him vulnerable here on the front straight as well, with Race Clark and the 52 of Kolb rebounding from that mistake he made on the previous start, and Matt Grunberg now looking at 6th on Nick Boyd.
It's a 30-lap race, but every lap's pretty much a minute here. These drivers got to be a little bit more careful. I'm surprised we're seeing blocks this early in a race. Still a long time to go. Got to be patient here. I wonder if the 77 is going to be happy. Someone's spinning in the back out of turn 1.
Oh, that's
Brent Miller.
Brent Miller. He's going to save it, jump onto the apron out of turn 1. He'll continue.
Another good save. We saw a lot of that at Indy. We're seeing it again, the 52 and the 89 making saves there, but he's lost all his track positions. The 09 starts to get a bit of a gap for him.
22 dropping backwards as the 74 has a run to the inside. Chevrolet versus Ford Power between turns 2 and 3. Jeffrey Fisher looked like he had the power to go for the lead, but hasn't been able to steal it from James Miller just yet. And Miller's been pretty consistent so far. Last time by, though, was 8 thousandths of a second slower than Jeffrey Fisher.
I think he probably really heated up the tires with that block on Eisman, so his tires probably got to cool down a little bit before he goes for any sort of other move. 0.2 slower, about a 1/10 actually slower than James Miller last time, but these two are starting to pull away. Actually, these 3 kind of starting to pull away from the main lead pack. Miller, Fisher, and Eisman ahead of everyone as they battle for 4th. Matt Grunberg already up to the battling for the 4th position with James Kolb.
Down the back straightaway drag race now. Chevy versus Chevy. The 54, a little bit of damage on the nose of that car. Love the Circuit City sponsorship on the 52, kind of period correct as they head off into turn number 2 through the tunnel turn. And you can see you can hear the tires just shredding themselves across the pavement. 74 Nick Boyd gets loose in the background, goes defensive on the 22.
So 52's gonna again give Grunberg the inside. Is it Kolb or Cobb?
Kolb. I'd say Kolb. I haven't been corrected before, so that's what we're going to roll with.
Well, he's doing a really good job. He had a good run last week going. I think he was top 10 for most of that race at Indy, but I think he's actually just going to let Grunberg go, lifting on the front straightaway here, just going to get behind that 54. Maybe Grunberg can lead him up to those top 3.
Brent Miller in the background. We saw him in the grass in turn 1 a few laps ago. Here he comes through the middle to grab 17th place away from Alex Boyd. Now looking for 16th on Corey Lindsay down into turn number 1. Miller is certainly faster than where he's running, just rebounding from that spin he had a little while ago.
Yeah, really sliding the car up the track a bit. It's a 00 giving him all the room he needs for sure. They're going to get so close out of turn 1. However, almost a bit of contact there with those two as Brent Miller's going to get away from the 00's door. No side draft. There's the 89's going to just barely get clear before they get to the tunnel turn.
Off into turn number 2 now. He's through to 16th place. Looking up the road, here's Chuck Sweeting on the tailpipes of Race Clark in the 22. And there's Nick Boyd and Justin Kolb in front. Kolb running a little bit wide in turn 3, leaving the inside vulnerable as they come out of that final corner.
Oh, and he's going to get into the wall right there. It's going to really check up Race Clark and Chuck Sweeting. Sweeting still wants to go low. Instead, he's going to push Race Clark by that 52 machine as Kolb's going to have to deal with the damage now.
52 still getting in the wall in the front straightaway. Now Sweeting slots in line to arc into turn 1 as smoothly as possible. He's going to miss the turning point just a little bit. See how far off the apex that puts him. Kolb tries to fill the hole but can't get there in time. Door gets slammed shut. There's Hines and Cogswell going for 11th spot behind them.
Tanner Sharp, actually, Michael Goodman, they got really close. They were way up the track there as they're all battling for their own positions back there out of turn number 1 as this group of about 4 cars, 5th through 8th here, really trying to sort things out. It's really the most tight-knit pack here still as Race Clark really falling back a bit here. He was up to 4th. He went back to 7th. Now he's back up to 6th, but trying to fend off Chuck Sweeting still.
Oh, the race leader. So much slip angle in that car as they came through turn number 3. These guys on the apron trying to get that car to rotate. That seems to be the big challenge. How do you get this car to turn? You just got to chuck it in there and drive it with the throttle, and that's what James Miller was doing last time through turn number 3.
Yeah, you really just got to turn in and hope for the best and be perfect on the throttle. You also can't turn it too much or you're going to spin like Tanner Sharp did earlier in the race. Too much. If you turn in the wheel too much, you're just going to go spinning. But if you don't turn it in enough, you're going to miss the corner. So it's just a very fine line of perfection you need to wheel these cars around a track like this.
Closing in on a halfway point here already. This race going by relatively quickly. In the background, you see the 63 of Mike Stevens trying to close in on the 21 car of Jordan McKeevoy down the backstretch. Here's a look at the speeds we're doing here on the straightaway. It's 178 miles an hour off into the tunnel turn before jumping on the brakes and missing the apex there just a touch. And as soon as you get offline here in these cars, Connor, the car just wants to aim straight for that fence.
Yeah, you just have no time to really react. If you miss the corner, you're just going to have to slow up as much as you can, and you're pretty much along for the ride if you're not too careful. You can really just completely kill the car. Mike Stevens got that damage from that crash with Tanner Sharp, but if you're not careful, you go too far out of that groove, consider yourself done.
Riding on board now with Race Clark in the 22, exactly where he started about 14 laps ago. Off into turn 1, turns in early, carries good speed through the first part here. You see the 26 still struggling to get down to that apex. But there's a couple different lines you can run through turn 1 here. I don't necessarily think turn 1 is super single groove. I think everything else, though, you better be hunting for that bottom.
Yeah, you can fend off people running that top line. We saw Justin Kolb do the same thing in the tunnel turn. Even if you run the top of the tunnel turn, if you just run it well enough, smoothly enough, you can get the run off to be able to keep that position. As we saw it there in turn 1, the 22 Race Clark, who was staying lower on that yellow line, while the 26 kind of drifted up a little bit, wanted to get close to that wall, really trying to take advantage of the run out of the corner. So definitely multiple lines you can use as a 22, getting a mirror full of that 52 of Justin Kolb for that 7th position.
Ooh, bit of a slip up there for corner exit. Here comes Kolb, gonna just put the car in. They're gonna actually bump trap down the straightaway, send the 22 to the inside, and I think message sent. 52 wants driver's right.
I don't think that was on purpose completely. I think he just wanted to bump the 22, but he got him way sideways. The noses don't completely line up correctly, as Race Clark going to get a good run on the bottom here to clear him back for that position here. As I'm trying to look back up to the top 3. He actually got a battle for second. Jeffrey Fisher and Drew Eisenman. Eisenman going for that position because he sees Matt Gruenberg lurking. As Fisher's going to let him by, possibly. Yes, he does.
Look at the brake rotors on these cars, how they're glowing so red hot here. That's for the tunnel turn. That's typically a really fast corner where you're just dabbing on the brakes, but these cars get these brake rotors so hot into any of these corners that they're just not getting enough time to cool down. So I would be worried a little bit. I mean, these are really short races, but I just make sure that you're not getting into the corners too hot and stressing out those brakes. Look at Gruenberg carrying all that speed through turn 3. Fisher going a little bit defensive. No, he's actually going to lift. I think let his teammate by.
Even with that front end damage from the initial start, he still has more speed on these long runs than anyone else, it seems, other than maybe the 09. We'll have to see. James Miller starting to pull away a little bit, even though 09 still sliding all over the place. At 54, I think he did come down and get tires, so maybe we're seeing more of an advantage with newer tires than we anticipated, but I think that's just an overall showing of how much pace Gruenberg has.
Well, I think if the tires were worth something, we'd see some drop off. And if you look at James Miller, his last lap versus his best, about 0.8 of a second off. So I would say that the drop off is probably significant enough, at least by this point, for tires to certainly be worth something. 5 laps in, I can't imagine they'd be worth more than a few tenths, but that difference is only going to get bigger as time goes on.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look at if we do get another late race yellow like we did at Indy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's from this bunch battling for 6th position. Kolb actually got by Race Clark, but he's still sideways, way sideways out of a 3rd turn there. As Race Clark starting to drop back a little bit, maybe struggling on the older tires. Can't seem to get enough of a run because Kolb got really sideways out of that turn, but even then the 22 didn't get any sort of run on him.
17 laps into a 30-lap race here for the 3-Wide Racing League Cold Hard R Cup Series. Chuck Sweeting sideways. Can he hang on to it? He cannot. And around he will go in turn number 1 and
no
back into the fence. Caution.
That was a late delay on the yellow. Kind of surprised it didn't come out earlier, as everyone's going to have to make sure they just slow up and get by him here, as Sweeting's going to have to wait to get in line here.
Well, good job to just hang out there for a second. Not like you're really going to be able to hang on to your positions anyway, so he'll roll down the racetrack now. Second caution of the day out at lap number 17. Let's have a look. We saw it happen live here, Connor. He just gets in the corner really, really hot. And we'll go back on the straightaway here. Maybe we'll ride on board. We can watch his inputs.
He definitely doesn't look like he's in trouble right now. He still looks still looks smooth as ever. Just another day at the office here. But same thing we saw with Tanner Sharp, really. He didn't enter correctly, really. Maybe a bit too high. He's not close to that yellow line there, and he just gets too sideways trying to turn it back into the yellow line. Almost overcorrects into the 52, but he does a good job not hitting any of the other competitors.
Did a good job staying on the brakes once the car did let loose. And going back, you can see the car sideways entering the corner, and he had it counter steered in, and he could have overcorrected and smashed the wall here at about 150, but he did a good job to get the hands quickly back to the left. Better to spin the car out than to overcorrect and smash into the walls. And this is what Finney and I always used to say. Sometimes you just got to know how to crash because you will crash, and knowing how to crash effectively is actually a pretty good skill set. And Chuck Sweeting is definitely one of those guys who is good at not getting himself into worse situations than he's already in.
And he did a really good job, too, because the damage isn't really as severe. A little bit of contact on the left rear panel there, but otherwise, he's really not going to lose a lot of speed out of that. He'll still be able to probably get back up there into that top 10 position.
Okay.
That left front damage was already there, though.
So now I think we take tires. I think it's pretty clear-cut for me. 8/10 to a second off pace, I think you got to come take tires. If you're Matt Grunberg, I would say, yeah, come take tires. You're inside the top 5 now. You're not really going to gain a whole lot by staying out. You're going to put yourself back on strategy. I think everybody comes in, takes tires. This is pretty clear-cut to me.
I think so, but I'm wondering if the 09 might have a little bit of panic setting. We saw he was up in the top 2 at Indy, and when he pit, no one else came with him, and he lost all those spots. Same sort of situation late in a race here. I wonder if he might panic and not pit. We'll have to find out. He's going to duck into pit road first. Eisenman faking like he's going to stay out. Oh. Now he turns left into James Miller. Miller's going to stay out. He has takers, though. Jeffrey Fisher stays out. Race Clark. Oh, those are the only 3 staying out, though.
Well, this is sort of backwards to what happened in Indianapolis.
Yep.
Man, James Miller, he probably feels like everybody's ganging up on him every time they come to pit lane.
He just said over the radio, everyone's stressing him out there. So I'm sure he thinks everyone in the world is against him here. It just is what it is. I would have pit there. I don't think if he did come into pit road, anyone else otherwise would have came in. But at least he's not the complete only one this time. And also, he's got track position, so it's not the complete end of the world. Someone came off of pit road way earlier. I think Mike Stevens actually missed his stall there. So we're going to have 3 drivers, James Miller, Jeffrey Fisher, Race Clark, who were at the front with older tires. We'll see how much of a difference it makes for these last 10 laps or so.
I'm not sure why these drivers didn't pit. I feel like everybody would have pit regardless. So I'm not sure why they didn't come. I'm not sure how much of a risk that would have posed. I'd rather have tires and not have tires with what will be less than 10 laps to go, Connor. I think that was the wrong decision.
I think so too, because obviously with about 10 laps to go, it's basically the last opportunity you're going to have to pit. I mean, even if there's a yellow in like 5 laps, he probably wouldn't pit again. So these guys have made their bet now. Other than Mike Stevens, he'll probably come down again. But those 3 have made their bet now. They can't go back on it.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that was the right call. So we'll find out here in a couple minutes whether or not it was, especially with the double file restart situation, unless they've remedied that and they've changed it back. We won't know until they double up or single up.
I don't think they did. I think we're going to stay double file, but I'm not quite sure. One thing interesting, Drew Eisman got out 4th. He got out ahead of Matt Grunberg, so that might pose a threat to those top 3. But Eisman will be on the outside line, and Grunberg will be on the bottom, so it still might be an advantage for that 54.
I still feel like Matt Grunberg is quicker than the 77 on pace, and they're going to start right alongside each other. I think the 54 will be in front of the 77 when they come off of turn 1, but we'll find out here in about a lap as we should get the lights on the pace car shut off this time through.
Is Jeffrey Fisher. He's faking that he's come down to pit road, but he's really only going across the checkered flag marks down
I wouldn't do this either, and the reason why is because iRacing does model dirty racetrack, and you don't want to get a bunch of crap and dirt on your tires by running down there. I would just stay up on the racing surface.
As now he gets back up on a racing surface, he'll have to warm up those tires now and get all the dirt and stuff off of them as he's going to be lining up on the front row. It's going to be a key restart here with 10 laps to go. He's going to have to get the best jump he can. He definitely was a top 3, top 5 car, but we'll see if he can handle the older tires compared to everyone else around him.
Well, I think we can see one thing that's very clear in turn number 1. Have a look here at the rubbered-in line. It's basically all the way up to the outside lane. There's basically 3 of 5 usable lanes that are rubbered in. If we go over to turn number 2, with the inside line is not rubbered in. The only part that really is are these middle 2.5 grooves. Then we go to turn number 3, and you can see that there's really only 1 line that's rubbered in. So the rubber is going to change. The grip level is going to change depending on what corner you're in. And what it seems like it is every time the banking drops, the line gets narrower. So I think we're going to see an interesting restart here with 10 laps to go.
It just shows how much rubber these 87 cars really put down. And any other machine, you really wouldn't see the rubber all over the track. But if just one car slides in a single lane, you're going to see the grip and all the rubber just build up in that single lane. We see all the tire tracks, all the rubber that leads to the inside wall out of a tunnel turn as well. It's just all over the place.
So coming to the restart here at lap number 21 of 30. Remember, this is the first of 2 races tonight. We'll have a 40-lap second race with a short break in between. As Miller and Fisher lined up as teammates on this front row for the restart. Then it's Race Clark, Mike Stevens, Drew Eisenman, Grunberg, Kolb, Hines, McKevoy, and Boyd, the rest of the top 10. Nick Boyd certainly looking for redemption after what happened in Indianapolis a few weeks ago. Green flag back in the air, 10 laps to go from Pocono.
And I didn't even note that. I thought Mike Stevens would come down for fresh tires, but he didn't. So that puts Eisman on the bottom and the 54 on the top. So advantage to the 77 on those fresh tires as Grunberg's going to try to follow him as they're 3 wide for third.
And here comes a 77 for P3, and he's got it. What a dive. The 22 and 63 make contact. Stevens goes way up the racetrack in the first corner, but he's going to try to hang on outside of the rubbered in groove, throttle up and try to hang on to it. Stevens tries, and he completes that. He's going to still stay side by side down the backstretch between turns 1 and 2, and now the run down to the tunnel turn. Miller, Fisher, Eisenman, Grunberg, Stevens, your top 5.
Those old tires hanging on so far as they try to sort themselves out in tunnel third. That's 52 way up the track sliding. He's able to keep it under himself there, but they're going to be 3 wide. Race Clark falling back on those old tires. Nick Boyd, they're going to be 3 wide in the 3. 52 is probably not going to be happy about that. He slaps the wall at a 3, a really hard hit. That's going to really hurt the suspension and everything. They've been racing hard to 52 and to 22 all race, so I can't imagine Kolb's going to be really happy about that. I'm trying to watch the battle up to those top 2 as on those old tires, James Miller and Jeffrey Fisher making it work so far.
And 3 wide here. They're going to look like it. The 52 sideways again. Tire smoke out the right rear. And he's getting all out of control through turn number 1.
He is drifting. He's dirt tracking it all of a sudden. Those new tires not helping at all. Can't get them warmed up apparently. Really just can't keep the car under him. As meanwhile, with all that chaos is happening, James Miller is opening up a huge lead on the 98 and the 77.
Watching from the 22 of Race Clark as he follows this group of cars. There's the 87 of Richard Hines right in front of him. And the 26 of Chuck Sweeting in behind is Skylar Nissel in the 11. A great scrap here for 8th place.
Yeah, that 22 just not handling well at all. He could have used those tires, but it doesn't seem like he's completely out of it. The 52 sliding again, just letting all the tire smoke fly right here. As the 11 might have gotten into the 27. I don't think so, as Race Clark still trying to hold off these guys.
Yeah, 26 of Chuck Sweeting scraped the wall at the exit of turn 4, sent a couple of drivers scrambling off into the first corner. The 89 is through, but move him into 12th position. Jump up to Jordan McKevoy. He hangs on to 7th, but Matt Gruenberg now looking at the outside of Eisenman as they head down the backstretch, but door gets shut. He'll have to stay in line here. Look at how fast those bushes go by at 175 miles an hour.
Oh, it's insane to see. It's really insane to see. It's really crazy, especially when you're actually in a car. I actually did like a ride-along thing at Pocono, and they do really go by fast. It's insane that like when you're going that fast, it's crazy to notice. But otherwise, another thing to note here, I think a lot of people are kicking themselves for not staying out. Look at the lead James Miller still has. Jeffrey Fisher still in 2nd as well. If you had the pace earlier, you still definitely have the pace to stay up there. Eisenman and Gruenberg can't do anything.
I'm shocked by that. I would not have thought that decision was the right one to make, but with, 7 laps to go, it seems like Miller is sitting in the catbird seat right now. I think if you had started Matt Gruenberg right alongside him, they would have been okay.
He really lit up the tires. Actually, tire smoke out of the right rear from James Miller, so he's still driving it hard. He might just be driving extra hard to just get that gap. As Jeffrey Fisher, finally, he's under attack for that 2nd position. Eisman going low in the tunnel turn. The 54 going to try to give him a bump there, as they're going to work together to get by the older tires.
Off into turn number 2, the tunnel turn, the 77 and 98 side by side. Fisher sliding up the racetrack. Eisenman is through to 2nd. Missed shift maybe for the 98. Now Gruenberg has a look to the inside and looks like he'll be able to complete that pass off into turn number 3.
I don't know if they're shifting. I haven't been able to hear, but doesn't matter. Eisenman and Gruenberg on those fresh tires finally cleared to 2nd and 3rd. So with about 6 laps to go, maybe these two can work together to chase down that 0-9. But James Miller, I think he's out of the range where he can draft off of him here.
Big slide for Brent Miller at the exit of turn number 3.
Oh, Tanner Sharp's pitting. I don't know what happened there, but Tanner Sharp's going to come down the pit road. He's been destroyed. I think he's actually just calling it a day here.
There's the 54 to the inside of the 77 through turn number 1. Pulling even, the 77 carries up the racetrack. Big bobble for the 77 Thunderbird.
I think this is exactly what James Miller wants to see, as Fisher's going to help his teammate to get by that 77 now, as Eisenman's going to be pretty much left all alone here without no teammate to help him here, as Gruenberg's going to clear to 2nd, and now he's going to have to try to chase down his teammate in the 0-9, as the 98 gave him a courtesy bump there into the turn to help him, as Eisenman falls back further, all the way back to 4th now.
2.4 seconds is the gap. It'll be 5 laps to go next time by Miller. Leads by that 2.4 second differential. Then it's a 10th and a half back to find Jeffrey Fisher. Then Eisenman 2/10 beyond that. Then Nick Boyd 1.5 back in 5th. Long way back for those guys. Look at the 63. Look at the 87 all the way up to the outside wall. The 52 slipping and sliding. Love these old stock cars here as they exit turn 3.
It's crazy to see. I don't know how the 52 hasn't completely spun around completely yet. He had a save earlier. He might have to just keep saving it. He's just holding on to the end of this one. Lost so many spots. Another slide. I think Stevens put up the tires again here. As Eisenman's really loose. He is driving the wheels off it out of turn number 1 here. I'm trying to see if the 54 can gain any ground. I think it's too little too late, but we'll have to see here. He has clean track. He has pushing help from Fisher, so we'll see if he can make up enough time in these 5 laps.
Oh, Grunberg charged the tunnel turn. Can he keep the car rotated? Look at all the time they gave up on exit as Fisher closes back up. I'm more curious is when they come back across the line, can Grunberg close in? He needs to be reeling him in about a half a second a lap if he wants to get there as we come this time to 4 laps to go.
Yeah, 4 to go. Like you said, half a second per lap. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't think the tires would hold up this well. A 57.7 for James Miller, and Grunberg was actually slower, so he's probably going to need a yellow at this point. Too little, too late, unless the 09 makes a mistake.
Off into turn number 1, Race Clark, Richard Hines, the 27 of Cogswell, and the 52 of Justin Kolb, who has been putting on a show. Well, I thought I left Grid Life Midwest and the Drift Bros back at Gingerman Raceway. Looks like I have not. Kolb still continues to slide that car around as they exit turn number 1.
And another thing to note here, now those drivers who came in for those fresh tires, they know that the tires, they don't really matter as Kolb's going to go to the inside, look to the inside of Cogswell again. They know that tires do not matter, even if it's 20-lap old tires. It doesn't really matter as Race Clark's going to get really sideways. The tires, you're not going to see people really pitting as much, I don't think, in race 2 here.
Oh, opportunity for the 52 to go 3 wide. I think he's going to think better of it and back out and let Race Clark gather up. Oh, Cogswell's in way deep into turn number 3. That's way out of the groove. He's still going to be 3 wide. Is they're going to get sandwiched, and the 26 backs out to avoid a collision. Dicey.
Yeah, the 26, Sweeting had nowhere to go. He just had to back out there to avoid an inevitable wreck. Grunberg 4/10 slower as James Miller really slid into turn 1 there. He was really light in his right rear up there. But again, 4/10 faster than Grunberg last time by.
Next time by will be 2 laps to go. Just about 5 miles remaining when they get back to the stripe. Behind them, it's a hornet's nest for 9th place. Cogswell's got it. Clark wants it, and a bunch more behind him are trying to chase him down for it.
Yeah, Richard Hines really leading this pack of cars, trying to get away from Cogswell and others here as McEvoy's cleared as 7th. As Mike Stevens, he stayed out with those guys. I'm surprised Stevens has actually stayed in the 6th position, so a really good strategy call for that 63. Really wasn't running as well after getting into that first wreck here, so really good job for him to recover so far as Race Clark to the inside of Cogswell, trying to get that position away.
Cogswell is really charging into turn 3. I'm not convinced it's working out for him either as they come out of that final corner. Big slide there, big moment. Straightens it back out. 2 laps to go for the race leader. And that time Grunberg was closer, but it's just not going to happen unless they get a caution before the end of this race.
And it might come out with Cogswell and Race Clark. Clark trying to side draft out of turn 3 as they're going to be dead even into turn 1 this time as the 27, not a lot of grip. The 26, Sweeting really sends it in. Kolb running where there's really no grip, trying to get the top lane to work. He's going to slide again as the 27 gets closed up on by the 26 of Chuck Sweeting.
Down the back straightaway now, the 22, 27, 26 all lined up. The 52 behind them. And off into turn number 2. Again, Cogswell's just charging into these corners, and I think it's costing him a lot of time. And that will leave Chuck Sweeting able to be picking up a spot there.
Yeah, he's really struggling on exit. That's what happens if you're not careful about your entrances. You're just gonna give up all that time and then some on exit. As we're coming to the white flag, I think James Miller's gonna get away with it.
White flag in the air here at Pocono. 2.5 miles. Car spun around. It's the 27 of Cogswell. We already have taken the white flag lap. He will get back rolling. And quickly we'll go back and see exactly how this happened. He was running in front of the 52 car. Was there a touch here, or did he just get loose? He's just going to step up right there. Car just gets out of control. And he did get help from the 52.
Yeah, nothing the 52 could do about it coming to the white flag. Good save by Cogswell to keep it on track, but meanwhile at the front, all these drivers watching James Miller drive away from literally everyone on completely old tires. He didn't pit at all this race, and I think people are going to take note of that. we're going to see definitely today, he's definitely going to be the guy to beat once again in a doubleheader.
No Bull 4 driver and the winner of the doubleheader. Both races at Tsukuba as he comes out of turn number 3. Doesn't matter how many turns or in what configuration. James Miller is a winner at Pocono. Comes across the line. Gruenberg second, Fisher third, Eisenman fourth, Nick Boyd fifth. Then Mike Stevens, a great run for him, 6th place. Then 7th, Jordan McEvoy, Richard Hines 8th, Race Clark in 9th, and Chuck Sweeting rounding out the rest of your top 10.
Justikov was able to hang on for the 11th even after that contact. That was a race kind of full of surprises in my opinion, especially with the tires. I think we're definitely going to know what we're going to have to expect here in race 2.
Well, look at the teammates, 1, 2, 3, Miller, Gruenberg, Fisher. You got to be really happy and proud of that performance in this race, and we'll see if we can do it again here shortly. We're going to step away for a few minutes after we show you our results, and we'll bring you race number 2 here at Pocono, Pennsylvania in just a little while. Miller, Gruenberg, Fisher, Eisenman, Nick Boyd, your 1 through 5, then Stevens, McEvoy, Hines, Clark, Sweeting, and 11 through 15th, Kolb, Miller, Nissel, Lindsay, and Goodman. Then we saw Cogswell get looped around. He finishes 16th, Alex Boyd 17th, Tanner Sharp, Dustin Dewar, Donovan Smith, and only 20 drivers in this one. So we'll be back in a few minutes with race number 2 from Pocono, Pennsylvania. Sit tight.
If there's one place that defines American motorsport, it's here. The sandy beaches a few miles away held races for decades. It's where NASCAR was born. They need a place to race, a super speedway so fast and so huge that the cars could run flat out all the way around. So they built it. 1 million square yards of earth was moved to create the banking. The void left behind became Lake Lloyd. And 2.5 miles of asphalt created more than just one of the most beautiful racetracks in the world. It built the foundation of NASCAR. In the decades that followed, Daytona became hallowed ground. The trophies here mean more than any other. Win the 500, put your name on the Harley J. Earl Trophy. Win the 24 hours and strap a Rolex on your wrist. The banks are not always kind. They're not always fair. And while Daytona wins bring a statistical highlight to any career, it's the losses that make it seem pointless. But for every untimely ending, there is a triumphant healing. For every emotional victory, a mind-numbing realization.
Tom O'Gorman fighting for every inch that he could possibly get. Won the last T-Scar race of last year, Road Atlantic, starting things off in exactly the right style. It is victory for Tom O'Gorman and the LA Pocono team.
I won at Daytona. I earned a trophy at the World Center of Racing. The checkered flag waved for me. For me, it was not the end of a career. While it may be a highlight, it is only the beginning. It's just the best ever.
Welcome back live to Sim TV and the 3-Wide Racing League Cold Hard Art Cup Series from Pocono, Pennsylvania. Just lining up for our second race of the evening. Well, I should say qualifying for our second race of the evening. This one 10 laps longer. Connor, how does that change strategy, and what did we learn from the first race tonight?
I'm not sure how much strategy it will change. It might just mess up some fuel numbers. We didn't really see a full fuel run by any means, so we'll see if that comes into play. But one thing we definitely learned, the tires are definitely not worth taking. We saw that James Miller won easily. He never came in for tires or fuel or anything like that, and he was up at around 3 seconds of a lead when he started coasting to the finish line. That's how big of a lead he had. And Jeffrey Fisher, the 65, Mike Stevens, they got good finishes because they stayed out as well, so I don't really expect to see any... I don't expect to see much pit stops under yellow here. So I think that'll definitely change a lot of people's opinions.
Well, one thing we did learn is that these cars are out of control, and you have to kind of drive them in a slide. We saw a lot of smoke and slides and skids and that sort of thing. The other thing we should note is look at the temperature of the track. 80 more degrees here with conditions that are still cloudy, but more broken clouds. See, the racetrack's actually in pretty direct sunlight, so that is going to change the track temperature, make it maybe a bit more slick to be on. So we'll keep that in mind as well. This race will be about 35 minutes long from start to finish. And again, if you would like to watch live timing and scoring, you can do so at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. Slightly redone website the last couple weeks, some new information and new content on there, so make sure you go check that out. With 3 minutes left in qualifying, no one's yet laid down a time. We're about to find out who has got the fastest beans in the business. I would guess that if the 091 race won, Connor, he'd be pretty much my favorite pick for race number 2.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be the guy to beat if he can keep the car up at the front. And we thought he made another mistake staying out, but obviously, like we keep saying, tires do not really matter that much. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back to back in another doubleheader. So I think the first one to take a time here, I think it was Richard Hines. Now Donovan Smith went to the top as a couple drivers still trying to end their laps here. As yeah, like you said, the 09 is definitely going to be your pick. I wouldn't be surprised if Gruenberg finds something this run, though.
Nick Boyd, again, looking for some success after the last couple weeks not really getting what he needed. Drew Eisenman goes to the top of the board. Maybe this is the dark horse we should be keeping an eye on. Donovan Smith blew the motor on the opening start, and already pretty decent lap time there for the first lap of qualifying. We'll see if he can go again for a second lap, and he is really trying to get redemption after being out on the first lap last race.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Just didn't get through the gears correctly. Dead last, which is 20th, so it's not not the worst it could have been as he slides into the final corner here. But he's definitely gonna have to rebound. He can't afford any more mistakes. He needs a good finish here to keep up with the points picture.
Chuck Sweeting on the track as well. He was a top 10 driver in the previous race. Across the line now to start a flying lap. Matt Gruenberg is also out there. So is Mike Stevens, who got a top 6. Justin Kolb, he struggled a lot with the car in the first race of the night. Just a lot of slippery, slidey conditions. And I'm not sure if the driver was inducing some of that with maybe the lines or maybe the right foot pedal usage. But Kolb was definitely out of control or struggling for it in that first race of the night.
Yeah, he slid on that last restart, and when you slide once in one of these cars, you're just going to keep sliding all over the place. Once those tires are heated up too much, you're pretty much along for the ride. As we saw, he was really struggling for those last 10 laps. As the track's going to be a bit hotter here, the sun's going to be beaten down on a little bit more. We'll see if he struggles any more than he already did, or maybe he can start driving the wheels off this thing, maybe, if he's able to keep the car under him this run.
I think he should keep the wheels on the car. It would be a good strategy as he comes through turn number 3. Drew Eisenman still holds on to provisional pole for the time being. Jordan McEvoy, I believe, going for a second lap. No, Chuck Sweeting goes quick. It's the 57.169, puts him on provisional pole, whereas Matt Gruenberg looks like he will not have a valid lap. Mike Stevens out of turn number 4 is the only other driver that can come on through and eclipse the 26. Across the line, 58.3. That will put him in about 12th spot, make that 11th. And Jordan McEvoy out of turn number 3 is going to come across the line, and we'll see if he can bump. Needs to be to 57.169, and looks like he will not do that. He will stay in 3rd for now. So put Chuck Sweeting on pole for this one. And Drew Eisenman up front. I like that front row. I think our winner could very easily come from one of those first 2 spots. Looks like James Miller, Matt Gruenberg, and Jeffrey Fisher will all start at the back for race number 2. That'll be fun.
I don't think Gruenberg wanted to this time. He's actually coming out of 4 right now. He doesn't have enough time to complete his lap. He actually had some right front damage, so I think his first lap must have gotten disapproved because he did hit the wall somewhere, so that's probably not what he wanted. I'm surprised Miller didn't qualify, kind of calling a shot here. Maybe he thinks he's fast enough to go through the whole field to win the race. Jeffrey Fisher and Matt Gruenberg, they're obviously the 1, 2, 3, so nothing to really lose. Corey Lindsay back there with them, so we'll see if those 3 can charge up to the front early on.
Now let's have a look here at our starting lineup on the front row for this race. Chuck Sweeting in the number 26, and Drew Eisenman in that red, white, and blue, and green and yellow. That rainbow car starts in 2nd. Drew McEvoy, I was going to go through all the colors, but I don't know what they're all called.
It's too many.
There's so many colors, and there's row 3. We'll let the rest of the order scroll along the bottom of the screen here as we get rolling here. But I wanted to touch on the weather. It's supposed to be cloudy, and while it is indeed, it's very spotty. You can see in this shot here, turn 1 in direct sunlight, turns 2 and 3 very much not. So how much variance can you feel in the car if one side of the track is sunny and the other side is shaded?
Your approach into these corners is going to change every single lap, especially at a track as big as Pocono. You can see on that view, tunnel turn completely in darkness, while Long Pond straightaway is still, and I assume turn 1 as well, still under the sunlight. So you're going to be changing your line every single lap if the weather is going to change every single lap. You're going to have this turn's going to be under the sun. Now the next time you go through that corner, it's going to be completely dark. It's going to be a lot of variance today with the sun popping in and out like that.
Cars rolling on the racetrack now. Again, 40 laps. It'll be about a 38-minute race from start to finish. If we go green from start to finish, I think our chances of doing that are pretty good. We only had, what, 2 or 3 cautions in the first race, and they were all fairly avoidable accidents. Nothing really chaotic, just single car spins here and there. What's our chances of going caution-free in this race?
I don't know. We saw not really because of that Donovan Smith blowing the engine, but that first initial start, everyone was all over each other. It was more orderly for the other restart or 2 there, but that initial start, we were 3 and 4 wide. No one could really get spread out other than the leader, who was James Miller. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another caution within 5 laps here.
I just noticed that this one car, one looks like an I, which is real convenient because it's an Apple car. So, well done, Donovan.
That was probably the. I assume that's what he went for, but you can't tell what number it is then.
Well, I mean, it's a 1, right?
That's the number I.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the square root of negative 1.
Now.
It's the square root of negative 1.
Apparently.
There's a math joke. We already got one of those in there tonight. All right, Chuck Sweeting out front as we roll through the 3rd and final corner here at Pocono Raceway. Drew Eisman on the front row as well. So it's Chevrolet Monte Carlo versus Ford Thunderbird. Then the same on back in that second row as well. A couple Thunderbirds lined up in the outside. 1, 2, 3 as we come out of turn number 3 for 40 laps. Pocono round 2 for the 3-wide Racing League Cold Hard Art Cup Series. The green flag in the air on the run down to turn 1. The 52 car fanning out already. 3 wide as we head down towards the first corner.
I think he wanted to get out from behind Donovan Smith as early as he could. I don't think he wanted to risk it, but the 1 does get through the gears well this time as, the 74 way up the track, almost into the 87 of Richard Hines.
Fanning out. Oh, the 26 is going to be almost into the wall as they come out of turn number 1. Somehow he didn't find it as the field scatters down the backstretch now on the way to the tunnel turn. Here's Eisenman now. Driver's left towards turn 2.
As they're going about almost 3 wide, the 54 looking for room to get under Brent Miller, but he's just going to wait it out for now as the 1 and the 74 way up the track with the tunnel turn as they all fan out. As the 21, McEvoy looks like he's going backwards as the 10 goes up to the apron a little bit as the Eisman's going to go for the race lead all of a sudden in turn number 3.
For the race lead as they come out of turn number 3, Sweeting a little bit wide all the way out to the concrete wall. Drag race back to the stripe to lead lap number 1. Eisenman will get it by 17 thousandths of a second. He leads the first of the 40 laps that we run this evening. Clean and green so far. In the background, you see the 98 car pop out of line. It's Jeffrey Fisher. And speaking of our race winner, James Miller, there he is riding in 14th right now.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be really patient in the slower traffic compared to him here. He's gonna have to be very patient, making pretty much all of these passes. Can't afford to get his car damaged. If he dings up that right front a little bit, he's gonna be in for a rough ride in the mid-pack here.
And speaking of the mid-pack, there is one of the cars popping online. It's the 54 Matt Groomer. Again, you're seeing that right, 15th to 7th in a lap and a half. He has got to be one of the favorites with the climb that he's had so far in this race. We go up to 3rd. Race Clark hunting down the front too.
Yeah, James Miller's gonna have to be careful. He's gonna have to get through. He's gonna probably have to have a sense of urgency to get through the field like Gruenberg is, because if the 54 gets to the front, it's probably gonna be race over for that 09. So he's gonna have to figure out what he wants to do here as someone goes way low. I think that might have been Cogswell.
It is Cogswell's number 27. He fans out to the inside of Brent Miller with the 63 of Stevens tucked in line behind. In front, you see the 52 of Kolb go to the inside of McEvoy. That's for 4th place through turn number 1. The 52, big slip. You see the wheel already moving through the middle of turn 1. He's still driving it.
Donovan Smith, I think, was sliding through turn 1. I saw tire smoke. I think it was from the 1 way down on the bottom. He's able to save it, though, as we're going to stay green. Another good save in turn 1. Surprising to me, this seems like the trouble spot. A lot of people losing grip into that corner.
Which is weird because it's got the most banking. You'd think you could lean on that the most. As, big slide for the 63 is Stevens. He saves it. Oh, the 1 car gets tipped from the from the 09 car of James Miller. Everyone scatters. We stay green.
Goodness, these guys are all on edge. I think the first yellow last race was lap three, so I think we're going to make it a bit farther than that, just barely, though, as Chuck Sweeting is going to still hold on for that second position, trying to chase down Eisman. These top three, Eisman, Sweeting, and Race Clark, away from the rest of the pack, as Justin Kolb up there at fourth.
Jordan McEvoy and Matt Grunberg having a swipe at each other. Here comes Richard Hines up the inside. That's for sixth place into turn one. Turns to 21. They're going to slam the wall in the first corner. Back across into traffic. The 27 slams him, and they bounce up, and he's upside down.
Somehow James Miller got damage of that. Cogswell's going to roll up and over, and that was too aggressive. Lap 4. I think we all know who was to blame for that. That was just wrong.
Let's go back and have a look here into the first corner. It all starts up with the 21 car of McEvoy and the 87 of Richard Hines. Here's a look as they head off into the first corner. The 87 just drives in here. The 21 turns across to make the corner, but I think you're right. The 87 was just not a particularly advisable move this early in the race. Then the 21 back into traffic, gets obliterated by the 27, who then jumps airborne through that corner. And here's another look at it here He's
nowhere to go. He couldn't have done anything if he tried.
Oh, man, and watch this. Just gets put, so it looks a lot like the Kurt Busch crash from Talladega the other day.
Yeah.
Gets up on top of the 98. There's the race 1 winner, James Miller, getting a piece of it. And I bet you this will be even crazier from on board. That number 27 will ride on board here.
Yeah, he just had nothing he could do. Donovan Smith actually did a good job. He sees the wreck already happening, the smoke's happening, they're up the track. He doesn't expect them to bounce back down, and it's already too late. He had no time to react. He's just along for the ride.
Not much you can do once you're on your roof. Certainly a violent impact, though.
I'm trying to see here because I assume the 21 McEvoy thought the 87 would go to the yellow line possibly, and that's just not what happened at all. I think the 87 could have gone a bit lower. I think it's like I said, lap 4, a bit too early to be racing hard, racing that close to each other. You see Cogswell here. He couldn't have done anything if he tried because the 98 jacked him up right into the 21, put him into a wheelie here, and then Mike Stevens is going to come and launch the 98 under Jonathan Cogswell.
It's a spectacular shot there, and I'd also like to go back and watch from on board the 98 car because I'm sure he couldn't really see a whole lot either.
Right in behind all of this here, right behind Mike Stevens, I believe. Is he going to see the smoke happening? He's trying to go low because they're going to the top, but they just bounce all the way back down, and it's nothing he could do either. He's just got the car right on top of him there, and they were going to go wreck to the bottom here. He's just going to get going with a lot of damage.
We'll go back and look again from maybe a more aerial view here to see what the 21 and 87 had in terms of space. See the 21 throw a bit of a defensive move here. Then he'll move back to the right in front of the 87. Then the 87 will move left and off into turn 1. I'm watching the seams of the racetrack.
You see, look out when the 87, when they make contact, look how high up Richard Hines is on the track. He could have definitely gone lower, but he just decided not to. I think you might be able to slow it down. You could just see how much room is left to the left side of his car here as McEvoy chops down.
Yeah, again, you got to make the corner at some point. For the 87, I think this is certainly a mistake. I don't think it was intentional, but it was just one of those things where it'll happen, but I think he'll probably regret that particular maneuver. So he'll end up towards the tail of the field here with an EOL as we head back live here for our first caution of the night. And it was a wild one and a big one. Took out 2 drivers for good. McEvoy and Cogswell done for the night, obviously. Eisenman continues to lead this race. Clark, Kolb, Miller, Stevens. They stay out. Everyone else behind them has come to pit lane.
You know what that is? That's why you qualify, to get out of the mid-pack drama like that. That's, the James Miller, he's got damage out of it. The 54, 98, Jeffrey Fisher's completely destroyed. He has a lot of damage. The 54, I'm trying to see where he is. I don't think he got damage out of that because obviously he already got up through the field. But that's what happens when you don't qualify just because you want to be at the back. Stuff like that can happen to completely screw up your race.
And James Miller, you see the damage that he's got to the side and the rear of that machine and the nose as well. Jeffrey Fisher, that car is all torn up. Looks like that's been to the junkyard. Looks more like a street stock after a night of short track racing than it does a Cup Series machine. Corey Lindsay is back rolling. Some damage to the right side of that car. Not too severe. Donovan Smith back out on the racetrack as well. An extended pit stop for some right side damage.
I don't think he got into the initial wreck. I think he actually, from one of the replays you showed, I think he actually hit the wall out of 3. So maybe that helped him avoid the wreck being a bit farther back. Also, Nick Boyd, he barely got through that. He was the one who went sliding, trying to avoid all that, and I don't think he got any damage out of that, so he just spun it around to get out of that damage.
Yeah, Nick Boyd has made it through. He started 8th, continues to run in 8th, narrowly averting disaster there with those cars sliding and spinning all over the racetrack. So, at lap number 7, we should get the 1 to green here. We'll double file back up, give the 77 the inside lane. Race Clark will end up on the outside for the restart. This is interesting because the last time we had this double file restart, we had teammates on the front row. It looked like they took high and low. But I think Eisenman wants the inside. And I don't hate this for the 77. The problem is if you're on the inside, you got a lot of defending to do. If you start on the outside, you can let the other guy deal with that. But if you're the race leader, some people behind you are going to get a jump, and you better be ready to go defensive.
Yeah, we've seen the leader, obviously, on that restart in race 1. He took the high side. It's because the leader on these starts has not gotten a jump. They haven't really gotten clear for that race lead into turn number 1. So if Eisenman doesn't get clear of Race Clark, it could be side-by-side into turn 1. Race Clark would get the run off that top on the long pond to get the lead. So there's definitely a lot of strategy that goes into picking the lanes here, but the 77 seems confident that he can get that jump to get clear.
So 2 drivers out for the night, Jordan McKeevoy, Jonathan Cogswell, others with damage, fairly severe damage. Michael Goodman has picked up a fair bit. Mike Stevens still in pit lane. Not a whole lot of damage there, but has spent a while down on the pits. Jeffrey Fisher gets rolling again. Richard Hines is back out. Even his front end is relatively destroyed. So a lot of drivers damage in this one. That just focuses our attention up towards the front. And on the ensuing battle, the 54 of Grunberg is really the one that's been charging forward. That's no surprise. Race Clark and Drew Eisenman, as they run in the front right now. Looking at their season, Race Clark has not yet won. Neither has Drew Eisenman, and they're the only drivers in the top 5 in points that have not yet won a race. James Miller has won 4, Grunberg 1, Jeffrey Fisher 1, and Eric Mickey, who's down in 21st, has also won 1. Come out of turn number 3, pace car going to make the hard left for pit lane. And at lap number 8, green flag back in the air from Pocono.
Eisman didn't get a good jump at all. Race Clark might actually be able to clear him before the line. I don't know if that would be a penalty or not. I don't think it would be, but the 22's clear, but he doesn't have a push. The Kolb's going to go 3 wide for the race lead here.
Yeah, 3 wide into the first corner. The 52 on the bottom, the 77 in the middle, the 22 up top. They back out, make it double wide for the first corner. Now look at Grunberg. He went from top to bottom elevator move to get himself into 5th place. Looking to look for 4th on the 52. Might go middle here, 3 wide on the back straightaway. Yes, he will. The 52's going to squeeze him out.
And that's what I was talking about. Eisman didn't get the good restart, and Race Clark was able to power around out of turn 1 on that outside. So Race Clark's going to assume the lead as Justin Kolb goes to the outside of Eisenman. And the 54 really sliding. Race Clark really sliding through the tunnel turn. Everyone all over the place as Grunberg's going to go for that 2nd position now.
Grunberg looking on the 77 into the inside lane for turn number 3. He's there.
Oh, he's going to slide up there. He's going to touch. They just barely didn't. Right next to each other, the 77. Eisman just trying to pinch Grunberg best he can to not let the 54 clear.
Race Clark leads the way. Eisenman and Grunberg battling for 2nd. It's Chevy versus Ford power down the straightaway here at Pocono. Behind him, Chuck Sweeting, the pole sitter, watching and waiting in the wings if something happens. You can see the tire marks for the run into turn 1 leading straight to the marking on that wall. The 54, look at the slip angle they've got in that car. Even Sweeting chasing the car up the hill.
Donovan Smith way in the back also got really sideways. These drivers not letting anything back right now. Still 30-plus laps to go, but they're driving like this is the very last restart. Driving like it's a green-white checkered almost, especially for that 2nd position. Grunberg wants to go. Eisman's not like him. Chuck Sweeting's going around.
Oh, right in front of the 52. They're going to touch. Caution is out. The 26 pirouetting down onto the apron.
Whoa.
And caution is out for the 2nd time today.
That was close. A lot of other drivers at the very back almost got into it. That's a lot of front-end damage for Kolb. I didn't think he hit him that hard, but he got a decent amount of damage out of that.
Go back and have a look here at what happened. I think he had just got in a little bit hot. We've seen this happen a couple times tonight in a few different corners. I think this is the first time we've seen this in the tunnel turn. Just already the car yaws in, already stepping out, and he just gets behind in the steering and just can't quite save it from going around. The 52 on the brakes, just a touch there. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of lasting damage.
It looked worse cosmetically. We'll see how much damage he has to the rest of the car. James Miller barely avoided the 52 as well. It's a lot of drivers like the 87 of Richard Hines had to scatter there.
Yeah, that actually is fairly significant damage now that we look at it again here. So the 52 of Justin Cope will likely hit pit lane to service this damage, and we'll come back for the restart here in just a few moments. 1/4 of the way through our second race of the night here from Pocono.
For those who competed decades ago, speeding down highways, through towns, country roads. For those who sat watching on the sides of the street, who found solace in chaos and thunderous speed. Even for those who grew up without the sights and the sounds, and live without race cars shaking the ground. Who don't understand why racing appeals to our fascination, wonder, and the way that we feel. A purpose-built place to camp and spend time with friends, watching racing together until darkness descends. Though no longer do the streets rumble and roar, there's a place just for this, a park to explore.
A road racing circuit before the assault. The 4 twisting, beautiful miles at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. For 6 brutal, ear-shattering hours, its serenity will be violated by the raw power of screaming racing machines. It's the famed end-of-season endurance classic, the Road America 500. The specially constructed race circuit at Elkhart Lake at normal speed is a scenic 4-mile drive through fall-tinted Wisconsin countryside.
Hidden by forests near Elkhart Lake, not a path nor a trail, but a road meant to race. In a town too quiet, the refuge we seek, Road America, the racetrack, the national park of speed.
Coming back for the restart here for the 3-wide Racing League Cold Hard Art Cup Series. Up front, Race Clark, Eisenman, Miller, Gruenberg, Boyd, your top 5. Working our way towards lap number 13 of this 40-minute race. Connor, we've seen a couple of cautions so far. Most recently, the number 26 of Chuck Sweeting, who was our pole sitter going around for a spin. You noted under that break that there is a whole lot of cars that have damage and not so many that don't.
Yeah, I think 6 cars without damage. The front row, the 22 and the 77. Matt Gruenberg's pretty clean. And Nick Boyd, who spun out to avoid a wreck, he's pretty good. And also the 89 Brent Miller and the 11 Skylar Nissel. The only drivers left without any damage. The 09 has some front end damage, but he still looks pretty fast. Got all the way up to 4th, so we'll see if he can still challenge for the win.
Field rolls off of turn number 3. The pace car going to hit pit lane. The tricky triangle has been tricky tonight. Pocono, Pennsylvania. Green flag back in the air.
That was a good restart by Race Clark. Eisman had a bad start on the bottom, lost the lead to Race Clark. Race Clark, surprising to me, he actually still picked the bottom, but he was able to get the jump that Eisman couldn't.
Oh, 54,
Whoa.
big dive into turn 1. Almost tagged the rear end of the 77 of Eisenman. They don't. They continue. Donovan Smith side by side with the 74 of Nick Boyd as they come up off the corner.
Yeah, I don't know how those two didn't hit there. Eisman very lucky he didn't get sent there as Grunberg got through the gears a bit better. Down Long Pond straightaway has the big run down to the bottom into the tunnel turn.
And the 77 is going to get turned. And around he will go at the exit of turn 2. Caution is out. And more cars. This time the 1 car is in it. And the 87.
Wow, there's a big wreck. I think there was a bit of ARCA braking there going on. Richard Hines, Donovan Smith got involved at the very end there. I'm not sure. I thought Eisenman just went around on his own. I'm not sure if he even got contact there.
I think there might have been a little bit. And to be fair to the drivers, these cars don't stop very well. So it is hard to kind of miss these things. I think, I want to say that there was a touch between these 2 cars. Let's have a look from the sky.
Yeah, this will give us the best view. 09 looks low. I don't know.
The way the car reacted, Connor, I'd have to imagine that there was a touch there, and I'm sure Drew Eisenman could tell us that. But as he spins, the 1 car there is going to get contact by
Brent
the
Miller.
89 of Brent Miller. He'll go into the wall, bounce off, and then watch Skylar Nissel. The 87 will get a piece of it here. Watch Skylar Nissel as the 87 pancakes into the wall. Just squeezes through. And I want to ride on board with him and see what he saw.
Yeah, his brakes definitely weren't working. I don't think he expected the 87 to be there. He said wreck's already happening. He thinks that dude's just going to the bottom. He sees the wreck happen to the top, so he's going to go low here to avoid that. Then the 87 comes out of nowhere, just stops. Very good job there, keeping his car clean. Yeah, great job. I think that puts us down to about 3 cars without damage now.
Yeah, the first race was relatively clean. This one has been an attrition-filled one so far. Now that we're under caution, we got a couple minutes to talk. Wanted to lay some things out for those that are watching about next year. Here are the plans for SimTV. If you've just joined us lately here on this network, you'll know that we've been around for a couple of years now. Finney and Acuna, kind of the other half of the SimTV duo. That was originally myself and him for a number of years. He's gone back to focus on schoolwork for most of the remainder of the year. And no telling when he'll be back in a more full presence or if that will happen. But what is going on next year is, of course, my role with, it seems like my role with GT World Challenge America will continue next year. So for broadcasts basically Thursday through Sunday, those weeks will basically not be streaming, and there will not be an option to stream on those days. So my schedule is going to get tightened up a little bit. But Connor, this has been a wild ride. A couple of years ago, I had never been to any other racetracks other than Watkins Glen, and now I've been to Sonoma Raceway, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Audubon Country Club, Gingerman Raceway, Indianapolis, Road America, and more. It's just been a crazy 3 years. Lots of hard work involved by Finian and myself getting us to this point, and a lot of really cool people that we've met along the way to help us kind of launch this into something bigger. But I'm having a blast. Finish up my season finales at Gingerman Raceway on Friday, Saturday, and then with GT World Challenge America at Indianapolis on Sunday. And it is a very surreal feeling to drive out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after having just completed a broadcast. That was pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. It's really crazy to see almost up to 2,000 subscribers, almost getting close to that.
Yeah, and there is going to be a 2,000 subscriber special, more of like a film sort of deal coming at that time. So keep your eyes out for that. Probably towards the end of the year, maybe more like December-ish, that will be a plan. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. Also, our website has sort of shifted focus slightly. Still, there is still sim racing content there. Our live timing page is there. Our schedule is there, so you can see when we're streaming. It's also starting to shift more towards commentary in general. Not only can you hire SimTV for your virtual events, you can also hire us for commentary. Well, you can hire me for commentary at real racetracks, real racing events. So I have the ability now with my own equipment to go and do things wherever I need to be doing them, whether that be at a racetrack or in my basement. Can do it remotely as well, which is something I did for Spec Corvette for a race at Sonoma a few weeks ago. That was kind of a cool series, Connor. Spec Corvette, basically C5s all built to a standard very much like big boy Spec Miata on tires that were questionably under gripped for Sonoma Raceway. So it was certainly a lot of fun to watch that.
Yeah, I think I went back and watched that. It was pretty crazy to just look at everyone all over the place a little bit in that one. It was definitely pretty much every one of your broadcasts is entertaining, but that one was pretty all over the place at Sonoma like that.
Yeah, and they basically, their broadcast is essentially just putting phones in their cars and zooming them, and actually that worked pretty well. I would say, I mean, that was not the worst thing I've ever done. I will say that we should maybe check to make sure that the weather isn't going to be 95 degrees because all the phones died because they overheated, but it was still an interesting way to do it on a budget.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see that as well. So it's really crazy to see how far it's come. You and Fidian obviously did such a great job just building something basically from the ground up just because you're just doing something you love. I remember, I think it was when I was in Virtual Racing League, it was like, I think it was Jeremy Miller who told me to join the league because, oh, well, this like SimTV, it's broadcasted, they do a good job. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of SimTV, and I'm just like, whoa, they're really good. Why do not have more subscribers? It's so crazy to see how it's grown.
I sort of look back at those first couple events we did for VRL and ORL, and even going as far back as what was then the ISDC. We were not good. I'm just shocked that people stuck with us all this time. I think at this point I've got a product that I'm pretty happy with, but there was certainly a time when I was happy with it, and looking back, I go, ugh, that was not so great. So constantly trying to improve, and now I think, you know, with the real world stuff increasing, unfortunately, it's meant rolling back some of the sim stuff and not renewing with a couple series I very much enjoyed working with. But I guess we got to move forward, and right now this is actually turning into a reality in terms of making this a job. So, which I never thought would be the case 3 years ago. I never even had a desire to do this as a job just because I didn't know that was a thing I could do. So it's been a crazy ride. But crazy ride here. We're almost halfway at Pocono. Green flag back in the air for the Cold Hard Art Cup Series.
And a good job again by Race Clark getting the restart he needed to get clear. Now it's Matt Gruenberg who's in that second position. I think the 09 of James Miller actually pit for some more damage. He did get front end damage out of that. So I think he definitely did get to the back of Eisman like we were talking about earlier. As the 22 is going to have to hold off a really hard charging 54 machine now.
The exit of turn number one. Race Clark leads the way. Gruenberg all over the tailpipes as they head down the Long Pond straight. The 54 looks out, drivers left. Turn two, wide open ahead. Gruenberg is almost alongside. Going to try to dive up there. He's alongside now. And for the lead, here comes Gruenberg.
Yeah, Race Clark just completely missed his line. Couldn't really get the run he needed and put the 54 up into a point here as Justin Kolb and Nick Boyd are going to pressure Race Clark for that second position. I wouldn't be surprised to see the 54 drive away.
Through turn number three as they come out onto the front straightaway again. Corey Lindsay up into 7th place. He's sneaking by up inside the top 10. Race Clark trying to get that run down the front straightaway, but I think Matt Gruenberg is the driver to beat tonight. Did not win the first race. He's only won one this season. So I think he's hungry and wants a couple more to match his teammate, the 09 of Miller, who has 5 wins so far this season.
Chuck Sweeting getting really sideways in turn one. I was about to note that it pays off to not have that much damage. He got hit in the door, but he's still running good. Chuck Sweeting already up into 5th position. Mike Stevens with a relatively destroyed front end, once again up in 6th. Corey Lindsay's up to 7th. That's a great run for the 00. A lot of drivers trying to make something happen as they're 3 wide into a tunnel turn almost. That's James Miller trying to get some ground back.
That was really dicey. He managed to hang on to it behind him. Jeffrey Fisher, Alex Boyd, side by side, move the 98 up car back inside the top 10. Boyd's going to cross him up into turn 3, have a look, but can't quite get there. Jumping back to 2nd place, Race Clark stacking him up. He's the cork in the bottle right now as they come up on the front straight.
Meanwhile, Eisenman's gotten through. He's actually gotten to 7th position away from Corey Lindsay. Definitely on fresh tires after repairing his damage. We'll see if it makes any sort of difference this time. It didn't last race. We'll see if anything changes this time. He's going to have to chase down the 63 of Stevens.
Oh, big slide for the 52. Out of control, the 74. Slides to miss him in the grass.
He's able to save it. I think he really only stood because he reacted. He didn't want to hit Justin Kolb. Good job by both of those drivers to keep their car straight. But all that time Nick Boyd had, he's going to have to gain it all the way back. He's all the way back right in front of Drew Eisenman.
And there's the 09 of James Miller charging forward. Remember, he started at the tail end of this grid, 16th. He's up to 8th.
Whoa! Mike Stevens is way sideways. He was able to save it. These drivers are all over the place. The tire smoke was flying all over the place there, but the 63 kept it under him, and now he's back with the 74 and 77.
Heisman back to the bottom. I was mentioning, I believe I was talking about, who was I talking about before? I lost my train of thought. 74, 77, side by side. Big slide for Heisman there as they come across the line. As we approach, next time by will be the halfway point of this race.
You see car sideways, you guys got to yell, man. That was close. All these
Yeah,
drivers,
you got to. Otherwise, I miss it. I don't want to miss it.
I understand, man. They just do a good job saving it. Same thing at Indy. Another car sideways. That might have been Stevens again here as they're battling really hard. Chuck Sweeting going for the 3rd position now on Justin Kolb here as they go side by side while Stevens and Boyd stay side by side for the 5th position.
Down the Long Pond straight, speeds climbing to the high 170s, braking for the tunnel turn. Looks like Sweeting's going to squeeze on by. Then the 77 of Eisenman getting parked in behind the 74. Big slide, tank slapper there for the 77 Thunderbird. Now Miller joining the party.
And James Miller, he's made his way all the way back up, and then Mike Stevens is around.
And he's going to tag that. Oh, big hit for the 09.
And the points leaders got big damage now. Oh, I can't see. Michael Goodman got some damage as well. Same exact sort of incident that we saw in the turn 1 earlier.
Yeah, and we'll go back and have a look here at this one and get a better idea of exactly how this one began. But looking at the entrance to turn number 3, Eisenman drives off in here. Was this where it starts? Right here. The 77's going to have a look to the left, and the 63 is moving over to get a run at the 74, and they just sort of came together there. Then he slides backwards, tags 09, who clobbers the safer barrier. That'll almost certainly be the end of James Miller's night.
I think an aero view would definitely give us a better shot here, I think. As the 63, I think he's more focusing. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's not completely similar. Well, the 87 kind of just didn't go to the bottom. I don't know if I can completely blame that on Eisenman, because the 63, he checked up. I don't know. It's a really hard
little early,
call.
it looks like to me, but oh man. That 09 really got the worst of it. Wasn't involved at all. Either way, the 44 was coming in with a big head of steam, and so was the 1.
Yeah, barely clipped him. I think Goodman did. That car's already been destroyed, just almost about to finish it off there. Same sort of incident there. Someone shows the nose. They automatically think that the driver's just going to give them that much room, but that just wasn't the case again.
Certainly not. So Matt Grunberg in the 54 leads the way here at lap number 21. We'll see what the pit stop situation will be before we jump to break. We'll see if anybody chooses to come on down. And I don't know, it's been a pretty wild one. We saw a handful of yellows in the first the first race of the evening. It's been a whole lot more in this race, though. Why is that? I mean, why the difference?
I mean, we were talking about how the track, as we're going to see Chuck Sweeting's actually going to lead the majority of the field on pit road. Only 5 drivers staying out. But I don't know. We noted that the sun was popping out a little bit, but really it hasn't played a factor that much. The track temp's only 73, not much hotter than it was, and that really hasn't. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of drivers just driving more aggressive, which is interesting because, well, this is the second race. It's longer, 40 laps compared to 30, and drivers are driving a bit over their head, possibly trying to get ground that they really don't have to rush to get.
We'll check in with you in just a few minutes and line up everybody for the restart here when we come back.
If there's one place that defines American motorsport, it's here. The sandy beaches a few miles away held races for decades. It's where NASCAR was born. They need a place to race, a superspeedway so fast and so huge that the cars could run flat out all the way around. So they built it. 1 million square yards of earth was moved to create the banking. The void left behind became Lake Lloyd. And 2.5 miles of asphalt created more than just one of the most beautiful racetracks in the world. It built the foundation of NASCAR. In the decades that followed, Daytona became hallowed ground. The trophies here mean more than any other. Win the 500, put your name on the Harley J. Earl Trophy. Win the 24 hours and strap a Rolex on your wrist. The banks are not always kind. They're not always fair. And while Daytona wins bring a statistical highlight to any career, it's the losses that make it seem pointless. But for every untimely ending, there is a triumphant healing. For every emotional victory, a mind-numbing realization.
Tom O'Gorman fighting for every inch that he can possibly get. Won the last T-Scar race of last year, Road Atlanta, starting things off in exactly the right style. It is victory for Tom O'Gorman and the LA Pocono team.
I won at Daytona. I earned a trophy at the World Center of Racing. The checkered flag waved for me. For me, it was not the end of a career. While it may be a highlight, it is only the beginning. It's just the best ever.
Back live for the restart here for the 3-Wide Racing League Cold Hard Cup Series. The 1987 stock cars going for round number 7 and 8. Completed our first of the 2 races here. We have officially completed what would be 53 of 70 laps if this was all one big race. We had a 30-lap run earlier. Now it's a 40-lapper. This one has been plagued by crashes, spins, and cautions, Connor, and only 10 laps more. But we've already eclipsed our caution count from the first race a couple times over. So what's going on? Why are the drivers having trouble with this one?
It's really odd. I don't know. They're just a lot of people showing the nose and not pretty much getting chopped. A lot more aggressive driving this race than what we saw last race, which to me doesn't really make sense. The track isn't heated up any more than it really was. Track time 73. So just a lot of drivers.
To about where it was. It was hot when we started. It's cooled down to about what it was in the first race. Not even really sure we could blame the racetrack as we get the green flag again. Less than 20 laps to go. Grunberg fires off.
Well, those 2 teammates, Grunberg and Jeffrey Fisher, worked well there, but you see how much damage that 98 has. He just can't hold on at all. He also got a pretty bad shift there as well. As Race Clark didn't go on the bottom, he's going to be able to stay second. As they're going to be side by side for third.
I wonder if we ride on board these cars. I don't think they've been shifting here in these corners, but and the other thing we have to remember is that these cars don't have the cheaty gearboxes. Oh, they are shifted. Well, that was a restart, so maybe that's different, but you have to remember that these aren't the cheaty gearboxes the newer Cup cars have. You have to heel toe downshift and clutch on the upshifts to get these cars in gear properly, and that could be a contributor why we're seeing some of the cars get loose. Oh, the 52 is going to get on the fence almost after contact with the 98.
Well, that was really close. I was actually on board with Race Clark from my point of view, and I did hear him shift at least in the tunnel turn, and he did just shift in turn 3 there. So they are shifting through the turns, which I didn't think would really happen in these cars. So that's definitely big to be able to be nailing your shifts here. So Race Clark's gonna have to do a really good job of that if he wants to somehow chase down the 54.
There's 74, Nick Boyd popping on the line. The reason why I bring it up is because these cars are not easy to shift, and if you're not used to shifting the proper way with the clutch and the brakes and doing the 3-foot downshifting, not a lot of oval drivers that really practice that all that much. Even if you're on the roadside, there's not really that many cars in iRacing that will require you to properly shift. The Mustang FR500 is one of them, but there's, again, even the MX-5 Miata, you no longer have to do that. So it's a skill not a lot of drivers have accumulated within iRacing, and to do it smoothly is challenging, which could be why we're seeing some of these cars get sideways, is they're actually upsetting the chassis and upsetting the drivetrain when they're downshifting poorly.
Corey Lindsay got sideways out of 1, but he's over to save it. Another thing that's a struggle with shifting, this isn't a road course. You're not going left and right. You're not going into the slow corners. This is Pocono. It's a very fast track.
Oh, Sweeting, big hit in the fence at the exit of turn 3. He pancaked it and flattened it out. Good, pretty good there as he comes across the line.
Yeah, he didn't have much damage even after he spun in turn 2, the tunnel turn, but that's really going to finish that car's speed off there. He really pancaked it. Like I was saying, it's hard because these are very fast corners. You have to shift absolutely perfectly because of the shape of this track. As the 52 gets really sideways, it is an art form to be able to shift absolutely perfectly in a track like Pocono. It's really vital that these guys are able to learn a little bit from this if they ever go into official racing in one of these cars, that you know how to shift.
Well, the other thing about you bring up that it's not a road course. Well, the tricky thing is that a road course, typically you'd be downshifting in a pretty straight line before you turn into the corner. Here, you've often got to throw the car into the corner and then downshift mid-corner, which is not something you would ever really consider doing at a road course, and that would be a challenge even there. So, there's a lot of different different parts to driving Pocono Raceway in a stock car that make this often more challenging than driving on a road course, at least from a technical perspective in changing gears in the transmission.
Yeah, and you're not a complete, like you said, you're not going flat into a corner, and you're obviously the track is banked as well, so that there's another wrench into things as well. So many different variable things that go into shifting at a track like Pocono.
Sorry to cut you off there a little bit, but you think back to our first race of the night, why James Miller was so good. Think back to the road course at Tsukuba a few weeks ago, dominated and won both of those races. I'm sure the shifting experience it was certainly helping him at that racetrack and here tonight.
And that could be another reason Gruenberg also doing a good job shifting. Race Clark up at the front as well. The 09 definitely had an advantage shifting for sure at a track like that, and it definitely came into play here at Pocono. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone his way in race 2. Might potentially lose the points lead. Not quite sure on that, but it might be tight. But definitely he did definitely have the advantage in that sense. Maybe that's why he had that 3-second lead on old tires.
Closing in on about 12 minutes worth of racing and 13 laps to go for Matt Gruenberg as he tries to pull away from Race Clark, and he did by 2/10 that lap. And the only driver that seems really out of place is Nick Boyd. He was a hair faster than that 52 car the last time by the stripe.
Yeah, these four pretty much away from the rest of the field as they're starting to spread out a little bit. Justin Kolb, Nick Boyd, they might have a battle on their hands. As Jeffrey Fisher, even with that beat up front end, still leading everyone else 5th to 9th here for this top 5 position. Chuck Sweeting still tries to get back, dives to the inside into a tunnel turn, a very risky move, and he's going to get way sideways. He's going to spin again.
And for Chuck Sweeting, he'll loop it again. Caution is out. And a lesson's not learned there for Sweeting.
Fisher said that was on him. I don't think so. But I don't know. We'll have to see here. Chuck Sweeting, basically the same thing he did the first time.
Well, going back, let's have a look here. And Fisher said that was on him. Maybe he moved over and spooked the 26. I don't know. It doesn't look. I don't think there was any.
Fisher got the EOL.
What?
Fisher took it himself though. So that's a him decision. Sweeting spun on himself, but I guess the 98 thought he hit him hard enough that that's the only reason the yellow came out.
I don't think he was going to save that. It was such a light touch, but I mean, I guess if he was okay claiming it, I guess it doesn't really make any difference. But I mean, this is such a slight touch.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's I guess good on the 98. I think he's just. I don't know. It's a tough decision. He did definitely hit him. I don't think that would have changed the outcome of that incident.
No, certainly
I think.
Not.
As Chuck Sweeting, he basically got an EOL. He got more than EOL. He's pretty much called it a night. So Chuck Sweeting's out. Second time he's looped it in that corner there. So he's just going to call it a night. He'll be about 16th or 15th. I think it'll be 15th. Actually, James Miller, he was a lap down. He might have actually just gotten a lucky dog. So we'll see if he can get any more spots out of that. We're going to be left with only about 14 cars running, I think.
Been an attrition-filled race. We have had 5 cautions in this race compared to 3 in our opening race of the evening. As we check in, Matt Gruenberg, Race Clark, Justin Kolb, Nick Boyd, Drew Eisman. When we get the restart, it'll be less than 10 laps to go. What did we learn on our previous restart with less than 10 to go, Connor? It seemed like not taking tires was the call. I would expect that to be the case here again.
Well, no, Gruenberg, if he stays out, I wouldn't be surprised if Race Clark tries to bring the rest of the field with him to maybe put the 54 off sequence as the 52 is going to fake in as the top 5 or so stay out. Skylar Nissel, one of the last clean cars left. He's going to be the first one to bring a couple drivers in. Brent Miller, Michael Goodman, Donovan Smith, Corey Lindsay, the other drivers to come into pit road.
Can I just say this pit wall on driver's right coming down is the most stupid design I've ever seen. Why do they have that as an option? Like, just wall it off. I don't get it.
I know there's like a thing at Gateway, like the Gateway pit, like inside pit road. There's like a walkover thing at Gateway where you can actually hit it.
Yeah,
so
why why have this here? Just put a wall here. I don't understand. I mean, it's not like it gets too expensive. They have walls around this entire freaking track.
Or better yet, put a pylon behind the pit wall, not on pit road.
Oh, there's an idea.
Why is it on pit road? You're just putting it dead in the middle of pit road.
I don't understand.
Well, they have 3 corners, so you got to have some. I guess you got to have exceptions for it in a unique track like Pocono.
I suppose. I mean, I'm sure people have been run into that wall before in official races, and I'm sure it's a fun conversation when that happens.
Oh, that's probably great. That's always funny when someone does something like that, but it's obviously unfortunate when that happens.
Do you want to hear my blunder for the weekend, Connor? I got a chance to drive that Miata again. And
boy.
I told my instructor, my buddy Ed, who's a great guy, I told him I'll just take that car out for a session, and I won't be stupid, and get in it. And for those that don't know, I was driving a spec Miata with really, really bad, like old crappy RE71 Hoosiers on that car. And at Road America, I drove it in the rain and didn't die. It was fine. But Road America is a very point-and-shoot racetrack with a very straight pit exit. Gingerman Raceway's pit exit has a curved exit road, a lot like Laguna Seca. And I got in that car and throttled up too much on the pit exit and looped the car around, leaving pit lane. So that was really embarrassing. So I did it dumb, and had to immediately come in, and I got my silly goose patch and went back out. Then I had a very successful session. And what I did learn from that, though, is that it made me go, oh, that's what spinning feels like, because I'd never spun a car out before. So I was able to feel what that felt like, and then go out and actually attack the racetrack more with the car, because I felt more confident knowing what not to do, which was really cool. I actually got to drive at Road America. Thinking back, I was actually really babying the car. At Gingerman, I was getting after it to the point where I was having a lot of fun and a big smile on my face, just trying not to make an example out of myself a second time in the same session.
Oh yeah, definitely. Good thing you got back out there again. You probably wouldn't have been able to live down spinning like that. But.
You know, the funny thing is that we had about 2,000 spectators there at Grid Life this week, and I probably said RE71 Hoosiers. Mistake there, Jeremiah. The RE71s, I'm mixing up because we have Hoosier slick racing tires, and those were taken off the car after running in the GLTC race. So RE71 tires, they were very poor, and they got about 20% life in them. But the funny thing was we had about 2,000 spectators. Last year we had 15,000. I swore we had 30,000 people watching at the pit exit when I looped that car around. It was not a good feeling.
Did the crowd go wild?
I didn't hear it. I was too busy not stalling the car. I did a good job.
For the better.
Yeah, I was actually impressed because, again, the only experience in the sim, I really try to teach myself how to do the right things with the footwork, and I was able to get the clutch in, but the car never actually stalled. So I was really happy with my reactions that I learned from iRacing. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. That's always a good feeling when you're able to rip it on a track like that. You just have a big grin on your face. When I did the track thing at Pocono, I know it's only the 3 corners like that, but I was still gunning it. And it was so fun, smile on my face the whole time.
The track was really cold and the tires were really cold, so it was just a bad combination. That car probably dynos at like 90 horsepower too, which is the worst thing. Green flag back in the air, and it'll be 9 laps to go this time as we take the restart.
Hey, Gerber got a good jump, but he didn't have to push for Fisher that time. Race Clark easily going to clear for second. We'll see if he can do anything with that 54 as he dives into turn 1. I just don't think he has what it takes to challenge the 54, but we still got 9 to go. We'll see what happens.
Out of turn number 1, Grunberg leads the way. Race Clark second, and Justin Kolb right on the rear bumper of that 22 Thunderbird as they head down to the tunnel turn.
Yeah, 22 getting a good shove from the 52, but can't challenge into the tunnel turn. Those top 3 kind of separate themselves. Nick Boyd way up the track a little bit, trying to keep pace with these top 3. Is the 22 getting decent runs out of these corners, but he just has to get a run good enough to maybe, if he can get side by side with the 54, we have a race.
That's going to be the challenge. See the 52 trying to arc up underneath him. Can't do it. 77-74 side by side. That's for 4th place. Now make it 8 laps to go as they come across the line.
22, Race Clark is hanging with him here. Got a bit of a run, got the slipstream. He's a little bit faster on the straightaway here. He might be able to have a look into turn 1 here, but he's still about a car length back. He's going to dip low for a second there, but he doesn't have the run good enough as he's going to try to gear up for another run out of 1, as Nick Boyd slides. Race Clark, though, the 52 way sideways here, as meanwhile the 22 almost got a good run out of turn 1, but it just doesn't seem like he got through the gears well, but he still might have a shot at it.
He's so close. He could lunge and maybe have a look, but that would be without a lot of risk of getting into the race leader. As we work on through the 77, tries to clear the 74. He does, just by a foot or 2, move the 77 of Eisenman up to 4th place. As we go back to the top spot, Race Clark can taste it. He's so close, but that 54 is going to start inching away here.
He's got to pressure him as much as he can as the 52's way up the track end of turn 3. Misses the wall there. 22 almost got it, but he's got to put as much pressure on that 54 in the middle of the turns as he can. Maybe force Grunberg into a mistake here. It's rare that he does make a mistake, but this might be his opportunity to try it.
make that 7 laps to go this time through. The 54 dives for the yellow line, as does the 22. Kolb dropping out for 4th place, very tight.
Yeah, the 77, I don't know if that was netcode or what, but it looked like when the 74 slid up, the 77 got jerked sideways as they're racing really hard for that position, while Race Clark is driving as hard as he can to try to have any sort of shot at this race win, but he just can't get close enough to maybe get him loose and get alongside him.
Nick Boyd is just chucking the car in the corner to try to get it to turn, and it's not going to. Big understeer through the middle of turn 2. He hangs on and continues, but not without a little bit of drama. There is Skylar Nissel and Jeffrey Fisher. Fisher nursing a damaged Monte Carlo, trying to get it to the end of the race, but it looks like he'll probably get to the end of the race, just not as high as he would probably like after being in the podium in the first race of the evening. Cross the line now. 6 laps to go. Grunberg, Clark, and Kolb, 1, 2, 3.
Race Clark lost a lot of time last lap back into the clutches of Justin Kolb for the 2nd position. Kolb might be just trying to help that 22 out, but I think Race Clark had his charge. He had his chance, but that 54, like you said, starting to inch away.
Down the Long Pond straight now. 0.3 of a second, make it 0.4 now as Grunberg is really getting into his element here and thinking, we were mentioning earlier, the bad night that Miller has had in this 2nd race and the consistency that Grunberg is going to have if he wins this race. That would certainly, well, it was a 17-point differential coming into this race. After the first race had been tallied. So 17 points, 0.9 to the good of Matt Grunberg. Grunberg will certainly close that gap up, if not eclipse it entirely here if he wins this race, I should say. And Drew Eisman only 2 points behind that coming in. So lots still left in the points picture tonight.
Yeah, these two are really scrapping for this 4th position. You're talking about Eisman trying to get another point here. Nick Boyd just got by in turn number 3 for that 4th position as Eisman tries to fight back. But Nick Boyd is one of the last clean cars out here. I think there's 3 other clean cars, 74 being still one of them left here, trying to charge up for maybe a top 3. But I think those top 3 are pretty much gone for now as Race Clark has gotten back to the back bumper of Grunberg here. He's going to have a look. No, he doesn't.
5 laps to go from Pocono. Big slide through the tunnel turn. Clark trying to find some exit pace here that the 54 doesn't have. Not quite enough. It'll be 4 to go next time by, just under 10 miles of racing left.
The best thing he can do is gear up for those exits, get the best exits he can, and get through the gears as perfectly as he can here. We'll see if he has a bit of a run, as close as he's been in a couple laps, but just doesn't have the drive off enough, and that slipstream just not effective enough. He's got to run, but it's just not enough to get to that left rear quarter panel.
I can hear the shifts, and he's flat shifting it. He's pushing the clutch in and putting the car in gear, but not lifting off the throttle, and it's revving up the tires every time he does that, and that's just shocking the transmission and the suspension. And again, the shifting is a big challenge for drivers that are not used to doing this with the clutch pedal.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. I think the 54 is perfected a little bit better, but he can't pull away. The 22, the closest he can get is into a tunnel turn. I think that's his best advantage here. I think he's got to somehow get a better run out of turn 1, and if he can just get anywhere close to the back bumper of the 54 into a tunnel turn, he could maybe have a look, maybe force the 54 up higher than he wants to go.
And Grunberg, you heard that shift a lot smoother here on the upshift. Listen. Oh, that wasn't very smooth either. So mistake there for the 54, and that might leave him vulnerable if the 22 could just get through the gear smoother. Down the front straightaway, 3 laps to go now as they head towards turn number 1.
That battle for 4th not going away yet. Eisenman still trying to get by the 74. Nick Boyd can't get away from the 77 because he's going to slide up the track. The 77 going to have a little bit of a look here. Going to try to get the run down Long Pine straightaway, just like Race Clark is trying to do to Gruenberg. Still not close enough to make the move into the tunnel turn, though, as the 77's all over the back bumper of Nick Boyd.
1 car length between the 22 and 54 for 4th place. It's a car length and a half now, 2 car lengths. But the 22 and 54 are so close here, and they're coming to 5 miles left, 2 laps to go.
Back in the tunnel turn, I think it's Corey Lindsay. No, Brent Miller crashed hard, and Michael Goodman involved as well. Slid trying to avoid him, but couldn't do so. And that's going to put us in the same situation last week, 2 weeks ago, a green-white checkered.
Oh, boy. Well, here's a look at what caused this collision. This was certainly a big one. Brent Miller, probably all by himself. We've seen this happen a whole bunch of times. Drives off into the corner. The car gets loose from underneath him.
Same thing Chuck Sweeting
Oh.
did, but instead he overcorrected hard into that outside wall where the safer barriers. And Goodman just slid trying to avoid everyone ahead of him and the 89 as well.
A big mess there. The 89 certainly will be done for the night. Green-white checkered here at Pocono. Remember, as soon as we go green-white checkered and we cross the official distance, which will be in a lap and a half, the vertical timing and scoring, which updates immediately, will not be correct any longer. We'll have to go to the horizontal timing and scoring, which only updates every lap. We're going to jump to break. We'll be back for the restart here in just a moment. Coming back to our first green-white checkered here for the 3-wide Racing League Cold Hard Cup Series. Pace car going to make the hard left-hand turn onto pit lane. 2 laps to go, 5 miles extended distance here tonight from Pocono. Green flag back in the air. Timing and scoring across the top will only update once every lap as we get the green.
And this is the only attempt at a green-white checkered we're going to get. We didn't make it at Indy. We'll see if we can make it at Pocono. They're going to go too wide, side by side for that second position, as that's exactly what Gruenberg wants. He wants to see that 52 in second instead of that 22.
Through turn number 1, the 54 leads the way. 63 high as they come out of that first corner. The 11 of Nissel split middle 3 wide. He's going to get bullied over back to driver's right. The 98 and 63 almost get hooked together. 54, 22, 52 in that line as they head down to turn 2.
Yeah, Mike Stevens wasn't happy. Jeffrey Fisher kind of just bullying him out of a way, as you said there. As I said that you want the 52 in second instead of a 22, but Justin Kolb putting on a late race charge here, trying to charge it into 3. No, he's going to try to get a better exit here than the 54. Open the back bumper into turn 3. He was trying to really wind it up for the exit.
White flag waving here at Pocono as they come across the start-finish line. 2.5 miles left for our doubleheader here for the 3-wide Racing League Cold Hard Cup Series. Across the line, Gruenberg, Kolb, Clark, Boyd, Drew Eisenman. Look at the battle for 4th. Boyd and Eisenman into turn number 1. Eisenman backs out. Justin Kolb is close. He is within a car length of the 54 of Gruenberg. He can maybe make a lunge, but the 22 car is coming as well.
He just couldn't get the run off the corner. He really charged the corner there, not close enough to make any sort of lunge into a tunnel turn. He's going to have to really have a really good corner here if he wants any shot.
Eisman had a look at the 74, couldn't get there. Kolb tried to close in, trying to carry as much speed as possible. 1 corner left here at Pocono. He's got a battle for second. 52-22 now battling. The 54 looks like he's going to be clear and good. Here comes Race Clark up the inside for second place. Checkered flag waving for Matt Gruenberg. 1 win on the season before now. It's round number 8 that Matt Gruenberg will power out of the final corner at Pocono. He'll pick up his second win of the season. Drag race to the line. 52-22 in that order by a tenth. No, make that .054 of a second. Very tight behind him. Fisher and Nissel, .013 between them. 6th and 7th. What a drag race back to the line for those two.
Yeah, it's a good job by them keeping it clean as well. I can't imagine Race Clark's going to be happy. He pretty much gave up that second position on that restart, and that could have been the difference between making a challenge for the win or not.
So checkered flag for the 54 of Matt Gruenberg. And here is a look at your race results. And Gruenberg, again, this team has just been so good this season. They've won pretty much all but 2 of the races so far. And the Team AV guys picking up both wins tonight. The 09 of James Miller limped it home for a 12th, which all things considered really wasn't all that bad of a finish. And he should be able to retain his points lead should things work out in his favor here.
And Eisman, we said he's got to finish ahead of these guys to stay in that race. He finished 5th. Good job recovering with the damage he had, but I don't think he gained any sort of points today, so he's going to have to gear up possibly in the next couple of weeks here to really try to get faster and be able to contend with those guys for wins and points.
Won't be doing interviews for this one tonight, but Matt Gruenberg going to burn it down here on the front straightaway. We'll show you results at the top of the screen. Next broadcast for Sim TV will be this Saturday, so a couple days off here for us. Next one will be Saturday afternoon. We're going to be doing Zandvoort for Formula I, and then Saturday night it'll be Outsider Racing League from Darlington, the Lady in Black. The track too tough to tame. Then on Monday we'll be back again next week for Iowa Speedway, then Road America, the National Park of Speed for the Fuel Premier Series. Looking forward to that one for sure. That'll be super fun. Stock cars at Road America, always a good time. Celebrations for the 54 of Matt Gruenberg. Connor, final thoughts on the Tricky Triangle.
We definitely knew the 09 and the 54, especially after the first race, they were the guys to beat. They could get through the field better than pretty much everyone else. The shifting, obviously, as we only knew that, he tapped the wall in his burnout. Got to be careful of that, but we didn't realize in the first race, but the shifting was very important to be able to do that correctly. Those two were able to do it perfectly, and the 09 was able to dominate race 1. Got caught up in some trouble in the second race, but was able to really clear the way for Matt Gruenberg to really get back into a championship fight after an abysmal race 1.
Well, exciting racing here. Race number 1. Woo, almost rolled the car over. Race number 1 was won by the 09. Race number 2, Matt Grunberg in the 54. We'll see you next week at Iowa. We'll see you next time on Sim TV on Saturday afternoon at noon for Formula 3 and Formula 1 for Formula I. We'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful night.